All right, welcome everyone. We have another special podcast, The Man, the Myth. We got Phil Hellmuth for Podcast 101, his second time on the show. Phil Hellmuth, how are you?
Fabulous.
It's hard not to be good. I mean, we got a lot to talk about, a lot of action, a lot of things. Let's just kick right off. So if you guys don't know Phil, you're probably in the wrong place because this is poker. You guys know Phil Hellmuth. We have done a podcast. We've covered his sort of journey, his career, his bracelets, all this stuff. We'll talk.
You're probably in the wrong place.
Yeah, right. Come on. I mean, like, you're missing. If you don't know Phil, you're in the wrong genre. So anyway, we've covered your sort of journey. There's a lot to talk about current events. Let's just dive right into it. You just had a epic battle with sort of, I would say, is it fair to call your nemesis, Antonio? I mean, over the years, he sort of seems to have held over you, gotten the better of you in a lot of spots and a lot of little situations. You know, both are great friends of mine. I love both of you. But you guys got to actually like legit, because in poker, you're playing multiple people at the table. Here it's just straight up mano a mano, one-on-one. It was the bright lights, Aria, one of your favorite places to play, Poker Go. Great production, exciting. Tell me what this was like, and look at how many views. I mean, this got 500,000 views. This is brand new on YouTube, and tell me what happened here, Phil. You just give us the rundown on what happened in this duel.
Yeah, I mean, they reached out to me and they said, "Hey, we're going to do a high stakes duel. We want to have a $50,000 buy-in, and we want you to play Antonio." I said, "Okay." I'm Antonio. To the viewers that are watching this, most of you have seen Antonio challenge me repeatedly. "I'll play you anytime, heads up. Loser gets shot with the taser gun. He's literally said that on ESPN so many times. "I'll play you anytime, Phil, heads up. Loser gets shot with the taser gun. Oh, you think you're so good? Play me heads up." He's been busting my chops. And I told him 2 years ago, I said, "We can go play heads up at the Aria. We'll play 10K buy-ins or 20Ks. But I'm not going to play for taser guns and all that stuff." And so I think, he admitted it himself. He didn't think I was a great player. I don't understand it. I really don't understand it, Jeff, how I don't seem to get enough respect a lot of times. And to me, it's very strange because I just keep winning. But Antonio, he admitted it. We went in the first match. He said, "I'm 60% favorite." And I thought, man, I've won 23 out of my last 24 heads-up matches, including the last heads-up tournament I played in against all the young pros on the East Coast in 2019. And I'm like, what is he talking? I mean, do these people not know what I've done? The last NBC heads-up championships, I got to heads-up of the 64 greatest players, and I lost to Mike Matusow. In 2005, I won it. So I have one of the best records in history in the NBC heads-up championship. I mean, I just don't understand the lack of disrespect. So he said I'm 60% favorite. Now, I know Antonio's strong, man. I mean, he is a great player, and he's strong. And I'm like, okay. He believes it. I know he's not making it up. And I said, all right. So they asked me who's the favorite. I thought I was a nice favorite, but I said 50-50, and I'm not going to underestimate Antonio because whenever you say I'm 80% favorite, I mean, you set yourself up for failure. You look bad. I knew that my mind had to be engaged. And so the first match, what happened was he claims I was very lucky. We played 2 or 3 hours. But I didn't have enough hands in the key spots. I felt like, sure, I made more full houses and flushes and stuff, but I didn't have enough hands so what ended up happening is I started getting ground down a little bit. My style requires, at least 50% luck. My style, I usually win. And so I didn't realize my plan was to never bluff him. And I found myself making 2 huge bluffs. I turned bottom pair into a bluff on a river. It came king 10-4. I check raised the flop. The turn was a queen, which was a good card for me. He gave me an open ender. I checked. And the river was a king. He checked behind me. And now I checked again, and I guess he had 3 kings. I didn't know this. And with like a 5 kicker. Mm-hmm. And now he fires out big, and I'm like, all right. I mean, you check raise the flop. You have to continue to tell this story. I just thought I could get him to fold, so I made it 70,000 to go. Right. If he just calls there, he's going to have a massive chip lead, and he'd be a very big favorite to win the match from there. But he didn't call, and I folded it face down. And we're talking about match number 1. Folded it face down, didn't say a word, because you rub it in somebody's face, you piss them off, they become unpredictable. So I don't want the unpredictability. I want people to stay predictable.
Right.
So I folded it. And 2 hands later, I flopped top set. It came 6-4-3. And that was the time he made a stand. And he called 3 big bets with 4s with a 10 kicker. And, and all of a sudden, from almost being out of the match, I then had the lead. Now, the interesting thing was, people don't understand this, but we're at the break. This is behind the scenes stuff for you all that are watching this. We're at the break, and his dad's at the bar. His dad's a great guy. I really like his dad.
Bijan, legend.
And I look up, and they're showing the bluff where I turned the Jack 4 into the and I said, now this could work to my advantage.
Right.
And so I go to the bathroom, and then I run into Antonio on the way to the bathroom. And you have to understand the bathroom's 20 feet away from where they're showing the match on the television screen on, say, 15, 20-minute delay. Whatever the delay was perfect for me. I said, Antonio, wow. I mean, I didn't want to tell you, but look what I got away with. I know you're going to go and watch it. And he goes back, and he's like so steamed. He's like, He said, I'm the worst. I can't believe this. He said, not only did I fold trips to you, then I gave you like $70,000 for second pair when you flopped top set. And he was just like, fuming a little bit. And I was like, all right. I mean, my plan wasn't to show it, but if you saw, I knew he was going to see it because he was playing at the bar and his dad was standing at the bar. Yeah. And when you're standing at the bar in the Poker Central studio, there's TVs on both sides. You can't help but look up.
Right. You're going to see it.
So anyway, I think that kind of helped me. And
that's awesome. So you win this event. I mean, it turned out the feedback was amazing. People, I looked great. I watched some of it. People saw it. The reviews were great. The format was great. Obviously having 2 of the biggest names in poker, I think it's pretty clear. You, Antonio, Negreanu, Phil Ivey, those are sort of like the 4, in terms of TV, Doyle Brunson, you could throw in there a bunch of other guys, at Mike Mattisell, guys that are like been around forever and been on TV and still around that are known. It makes it even more exciting. And the fact that you guys are like friends, but you actually really want to win. Like you guys like kind of have a little thing, but you're friendly. It's just like, it's very competitive. You're at that level. So you take it down and tell me how it works. Cause it's like
he beats me a lot. Antonio has beat me a lot of pot throughout history, and he keeps throwing out that challenge. Phil, I'll play your heads up anytime. Loser gets shot with the taser gun. He keeps telling me this.
Do you wish you played for the taser? Would you have liked to have the taser now or no? You didn't
wife didn't like the idea of the taser. She kind of vetoed it,
Yeah, it sounds unfriendly at that point, but
yeah, people are saying, Antonio likes to dish out pain. He talks about it on television. I don't like to dish out pain. So I don't want pain for myself. I don't want pain for others. And Negreanu is the same way. They talk about, I want to crush somebody. I want to own them and all this BS. And I'm like, I just want to beat somebody at the poker table and then buy him a drink later.
Yeah, and win a couple bucks. But tell me about the format.
I'm the one that comes across as the brat on television. They're when we're actually at the table playing, they're the ones that come off as like this when you're actually doing interviews. I come across softer. So anyway, now I have to accept the re-challenge. And so, Antonio and I both watched the match, and a month later we played round 2. Now, I think I put up about 40,000 of the 50,000 the first time. And the second time I kept the same partners and sold a little bit. So I had about, 80% of myself in the second round. And that's $100,000 each. And now we came in, but now I think the match is 50-50, he said. And I said, yeah, 50-50. Now, the second match, I immediately did catch some nice cards and got off to 230 to 170K lead right away, maybe even 240. And then I kind of squandered it. I made a big bluff, King 9-6. I'd limped in with Ace Queen, and he had a King 9-5, and he had a 9-6. And I check raised big, and I bet he check raised me. I re-raised big. He called me with a 9, and he turned a 6, 9s and 6s. So I bet 20,000 on the turn, or 19,000, huge for that match. And he called me, and I was drawing dead. And I gave up on the river, and he showed the 9s and 6s. And now all of a sudden the match was level, and I'm like, man, you blew the lead, Phil. You should have stuck to your guns, but it's okay. And so now, as time progresses in the second match, a lot of swings. I mean, he starts playing super aggressive, and he takes the lead. took a nice lead. And I was never panicked. I was like, all right, whatever. I mean, like his style and my style, I limp in every button, which the kids hate, the world hates, but I just keep winning every match doing it. So I keep limping in every button.
You limp in 100% basically, or at some point when it's sub 10 blinds or 8 blinds?
Well over 90%.
Well over 90%. Yeah, it is. I mean, it makes a lot of sense, especially if you want to keep variance down, you want to play in position, and people playing in position, people will argue you want to build a pot, but at some point too, it's just frustrating if you get to mix in your worst hands, your best hands, and your middling hands, and guys are guessing, guys are frustrated, and guys are kind of trapped. Also, you don't let them fold the deuce 7 off or the 3-9, right? They come in there, they hit a 3, or 9, and you have, so it is a,
it's interesting. Style. They talk about hands that are coolers. Well, when I limp in with king 9 and he raises and I fold king 9, they all talk about what a horrible fold that is. Oh, Phil, you play so bad. But then Ali's like, but wait, Nick Showman, Antonio had king jack. And then I limped in with king 9 an hour later, and I folded for 1 raise. And Nick's talking about what a terrible fold it is, and then but then Ali says, wait, Antonio had king 10. So I'm avoiding these kind of coolers. A king high flop with as aggressive as Antonio is, it's going to be bet, and I'm stuck to call.
I want to interrupt this. I'm fascinated by this whole format and actually how it keeps working, because you could technically keep going and playing forever, or a new challenger, and how I want to talk about that dynamic. But talk to me a bit about the white magic, the GTO versus exploitative, and these spots where when is it ever frustrating to you when that what they'll say, what the announcers will say, how the viewers will perceive it? Because I struggle with this on Twitch, and I've made some insane checkbacks, like top full house and the guy had a straight flush and just crazy shit. And when you're wrong, or when it's like not right, like people are going to lambast you and say like, oh, or even if you're right, they're like, oh, it's not GTO, you shouldn't do this ever. How do you sort of how have you been able to stick to your style that wins and that works, and just sort of block it out? Because we saw Fedor get engaged with you on Twitter. Some other people, Phil Galfond, gave you praise, and this sort of whole thing, like you're like a phenomena, Phil. People they love you. They want to say you're bad or you can't do it, but then your results, you just keep winning. You keep showing up. You keep beating the best in heads up situations. You win the bracelets. You go so how do you how does this affect your world? Break this down for me, like this GTO.
Yeah, no, I mean, the one thing you can always say, JG, is that whenever I make a laydown that looks bad, Twitter goes crazy. How could Phil make that fold? He's not very good at poker. Blah 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 blah. When I make that laydown and it's world class and it's right, then they all say, "Oh my God, that's so amazing! Oh my God, how did he do it?" They're so results oriented, and the world should be results oriented, but not hand by hand. And That's how, I have years of people watching me on tape and seeing mistakes that I made. And then they underestimate me, and then they think, well, I can beat Phil. And then they sit at my table and they're like, what the hell? The minute they're at my table, now they're in for the experience. Now you get to see who I really am. You watch me on tape in some of these cash games in 2009, 2010, 2011. Yeah, sure, I had bad days, played badly, lost some money. But if you think that you can watch 100 hands that I play badly on television and come play poker with me, you're not seeing the 20,000 hands that I played better than everybody else on the planet. You're not seeing those, and you don't understand it until you actually sit down at the table. So all these people, their opinions just don't mean much, honestly. So. Everybody's just too results oriented. Now, after the second match, which I won kind of handily the second match, I had a great feeling that day too. I went in and I'm like, man, I feel great. I feel like I'm going to win.
Nice to win the first one. It takes away some of the pressure too. Just kind of nice to get off, you're not going to get shut out, whatever, forget about the money, but just you won one, right? You can't.
Right. But now onto the second match, I had a great feeling going in and I won it rather easily. And when I went back and I looked, I was like, yeah, I could have played a little bit better. But then everybody else looked and they're like, what is going on here? Phil just kept, every time Antonio had it, Phil made amazing fold after amazing fold after amazing fold after amazing fold. And then he made some great calls. And so when you watch that second match, you're like, wow. I was like, wow, he had it. I was surprised when I was at home. I'm like, wow, he had it again. Great fold. Wow, he had it again. Great fold. so I felt really good about that. I was
And
like,
how do
wow,
you how do you think you match up versus Antonio, someone that you know so well? You played for decades. You played live together. You guys know each other. You know your personal lives. You know your poker lives. You really know him. How is that versus, like, let's say playing online GTO Wizard? Because listen, Antonio, who is one of the best players, he's an amazing poker player. He's got feel. He's not afraid. He's got, he is a live presence for sure. No question about it. He's also not in the Wizard GTO camp. And Antonio knows it too. He's not doing solvers. He's a feel guy that has great experience and knows how to play poker, but he is not doing solver world work for sure. And he knows, he'll be the first to tell you that. So how do you compare? How do you think you match up with him versus, let's say, one of like, Adamo or, Brinkin, one of these, not Brin, because he's more also like that, but guys that are like solver and math guys. Like, how do you feel you match up in those two scenarios?
Well, the last time I played a field full of the solver math guys was when I played on the East Coast Heads Up tournament in 2019, and I won it. I won it kind of easily, actually. One tough match where I was deep and could have lost, but I just think when I limp in every button, they say does not compute. Where's my GTO? Phil's not raising, does not compute. They're not used to that style, and I'm not there to play to their strengths. I'm there to play to my strengths. And so when I'm playing these matches, I get to look right at them. I look right at them. And when my reads are on, then I think I've proven. I mean, you look at, I have 13 world championships in Hold'em, 13 bracelets in Hold'em, and probably like 7 or 8 seconds. I mean, no one's even close.
Yeah, we did this on the last podcast. We did break down there's a look at your book. We'll talk about that today too. But you're looking back to 87, your first live, and then you get the you start winning some titles and all the first, but there's so, like, probably I think the most seconds, right? Maybe even the most thirds or up there.
Yeah, I have 11 seconds, I think.
It's just crazy, like how many you really think about that and scroll through. I mean, this is a lot of live. This is one of the more elaborate Hendon mobs you'll see. I mean, you get lost scrolling through here and how many.
Well, what's impressive, JG, to me is if you look at 2000 to 2002, which is actually 3 years. It's scary how many bracelets I had, how many first places I had, it's just kind of a scary thing to look at. I was like, wow. Because I was looking at, I don't dwell in the past, man. And so I just started looking at that, and I just couldn't believe the number of final tables I made in that little 3-year stretch. It was kind of crazy. And the number of firsts and seconds and thirds in all the biggest tournaments all over the world.
It's honestly like all final tables. If you look here, there's no like 12. It's crazy, actually. The string of basically all final tables. It's actually insane.
Right. I've done that, and I think they forget. Sometimes, Fedor came at me and he said, "Hey, I saw you punt off a $300,000 buy-in I played in. Yeah, I punted 2 or 3 of those freaking things. If I don't punt it, I'm going to be deep. I punted 2 or 3 of those $300,000 buy-ins. Okay, so you saw me punt a few tournaments. What does that mean? That's nothing.
Right.
You also saw me. You also, if you're paying attention, that I've only played in 4 1-drops, maybe 5, and I'm the only guy with 3 top 10s. I only played half the 1-drops. I'm the only guy with 3 top 10s. But no, Phil can't do it in high rollers. Really? The only guy with 3 top 10s in the biggest high roller of them all. And I only played half of them. And so I just keep stacking these records up. And so the world, most people watching this, or I'd say in this case, it's poker, 70 or 80% know that I'm great. But in the real world, outside of poker, I think I have 99% of the people recognize me as being great. And, and I have all the records in poker, but it's not even close. And
Right.
so, but it's frustrating then to have somebody like Fedor. I just wish that he could have seen, all of those hands that I played from 1988 to 2020. If he could have seen all those times I was on with air because I knew I couldn't get called, all those times I called with 4th pair for stacks, all of those amazing 3-bets where I just had complete air, I wish they could see that and understand it. I mean, I tell people, if you really want to see me at my peak, watch the 2000. I mean, I think I'm at my peak now, but if you really want to see a peak performance, look at me in 2012 at the World Series of Poker Europe main event, where I played 50% of the hands at the final table. I mean, no one plays 20%. I just call a raise with 9 deuce because I knew that if they flopped nothing, I was going to win. I could play almost every hand because I knew if they flopped nothing, I could win. And so, that was kind of, but anyway, yeah. So you're going to have people criticize you. And it started with Phil Galfond saying, wow, Phil played really beautifully. He said, man, that was an amazing performance. Phil Galfond said in my second match with Antonio. Now, a lot of people are like, wow, it's a great compliment. And it was, but I thought to myself, come on, man, I've been doing this for 30 years. But it was a great compliment. And I think because Galfond is highly respected, and paid a sincere, legitimate compliment. Thank you for that, Phil.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
That's what stoked up, people like Olivier Bousquet, people that I had to, there's a whole group of people that I had to invent the term white magic for, because I would explain to some of this generation. I mean, JG, I had ace 10 and I'm in the big blind, and someone moves in for, I don't want to exaggerate. I want to say 11 big blinds from the small blind. Well, everybody knows that's an auto call with ace 10. You're in the big blind. You have to call. And it was all my chips. And we had 70 players left in a tournament. And I started talking to the guy rather than just put the money in, and talking and talking and talking. And we went right to break. So 15-minute break. It takes me a long, long time. And finally, I say, I'm convinced he has ace jack or ace queen, and I fold it. And then I went to describe to one of the young guys, like an Olivier. I think I was talking to Olivier, and I was like, I just folded ace 10 on the spot. And he's like, what? What are you talking about? You can't. I said, yes. And I said, no, I read him. He said, what? And so, I thought, wow, he doesn't understand that, and Olivier is my biggest attacker. And I wonder if some of these guys don't understand about reading ability. To me, the greatest poker players in the world are going to be great at reads, and that's just all there is to it. Everybody respects Antonio. He's great at reading people. He has balls of steel. He's just not afraid. He has a big heart. And so, so I was like, well, wow. I said so I actually thought to these guys, my laydowns are like magic. I actually thought it's like black magic to these guys. And I thought, but I'm not a black magic guy. I'm a positivity guy. I'm a family guy, never cheated on my wife. I'm not a big drinker. I'm not a drug guy. So I said, I'll call it white magic. And so I just started saying I have white magic, which just means reading abilities.
I love it. There's some brown magic talk.
I could talk to a guy for 5 minutes and figure out that ace 10 was no good.
Did he show it, or did you tell you, or what happened? You did have a better hand.
He freaked out. He didn't show it, but he flipped out. He was all upset. Like,
yeah.
Oh my God, he went on and on. No, he was either an amazing actor,
right,
or he just felt like he was supposed to bust.
Well, there's something else to say about that too. It's like in that spot, let's say you're in a 300K or in certain spots where you can't pass up any margin, or you just let's say you're at that table, it's relatively soft. You think you're going to get uncontested spots. Obviously if the guy's got a worse hand, you're not going to fold and pass up a really ahead spot. But if it's close, or you do think you might be beat, and even though the book says for sure call, yeah, you could argue, find a better spot. Maybe you don't get called, or pick up, maybe the table's playing very passively or whatever. So, again, it's kind of a weird argument.
All I know is this, JG, I hear what you're saying, but when I trust my reads, when my reads are on, and this was a good sign, I'll get to, so after beating Antonio the second match, and the third match, about the fifth hand, he raised and I called with King Jack.
Okay.
And the flop came, now we're playing for 400,000. And I suddenly realized I had 90% of myself. So, because I was just too lazy to sell. I was in Vegas for 3-4 days, and I'm like,
Speaking of sell, did you had some action on U-Stake on this one, or no? Was it U-Stake?
Yes, but 12,000. It was on, it was on U-Stake.
Very cool. And we got, Stake Kings, U-Stake are now partnered. So that's another, we're talking about our business future we have a lot of tied in business. But so you got,
by the way, how much money do you think I made the U-Stake guys?
I'd have no idea. I know you've done ridiculously well, and some of the stuff.
How about would you believe $150,000 to the people that bet me on U-Stake?
That's a lot, considering I don't think you sell. Yeah, you sell usually a small piece on there too, right? Yeah.
And would you believe that I've won? I don't want to exaggerate. Would you believe I've won 20 out of 22 packages? I've only had one losing package on U-Stake. Would you believe that?
That's a pretty insane statistic. I would believe it because you're saying it, but
no, nobody believes it. That's a great thing. I just keep doing these things. People don't even believe it. And I don't even know how they rationalize later not calling me a great player. I won 20 out of 22 packages on U-Stake. I lost once. The one time I lost, I was up 50,000 going into the last hand. And unfortunately got a little crazy against Alan Keating. Otherwise, it would be 21 out of 22 with one tie. It's really sick, man, what I've been able to pull off. But, you know, people don't even believe it, you know, and then somehow because they see me screw up a hand, or they think I screwed up a hand, I'm not a great player.
You know what's hilarious to me? Because this is the funny
By the way,
part
one last thing, Jeff, before you say that. I mean, I had a second, a third, a fifth, a sixth, an 11th, and a 19th in 2019 at the World Series of Poker. Second, third, fifth, sixth, 16th at the world. I mean, these are unheard of things, and yet I have to hear all this bullshit. But it also keeps me on my toes. What were you going to say?
I was just gonna say it's funny because this is something I've dealt with, and it's true in the 98% of the cash game world. You know, like guys are trying to hide their results or don't want to know how good they are because, like, you know, the more tournaments you win, the more things, like the less guys want in private home games. Obviously, yourself, you're established, you're one of the pillars of poker. So, you know, the more you win or how you do isn't going to keep you out of games or private games with your friends. But it's just funny because, like, I know a lot of tournament guys or people that are good, they like want to stay under the wraps. But it's just funny because from your perspective, I get it. And it's like, you're basically saying, like, guys, what else do I need to do? You know, it's obviously no secret that you've been doing, you've won all the bracelets also. It's just a funny dichotomy, right? Like, you actually are like, what the hell? Like, guys, are you really not giving me my credit? But a lot of guys do want to stay under the radar. So it's just funny because for you, it doesn't really matter. It's not going to affect you playing games or getting.
You're right. I mean, I think because I'm Phil Hellmuth, because I'm, you know, one of the biggest, you know, names and personalities in poker, everybody wants to play with me.
Yeah, it doesn't matter. They're not going to say, Phil, you're no seat open. Like, you know, and also you give action, you're friendly, you're fun. You're not like a wizard tight guy that doesn't talk and is just
I'm really tight, but they all want to play with me. And it's amazing to me that, you know, the whole planet wants to play with me and they don't care how much I win. And I think part of that is I am a really good guy. I have a great heart. And so they like having solid people around who are smart, who can laugh at themselves like I can laugh at myself. I mean, my regular game, you know, has some really amazing people, the best VC in the world, you know, some of the most famous businessmen in the world in that game. And we just have a lot of fun, and it's, you know, and it's a challenge, but I fit right in with those guys. And so, you know, for me, I'm very comfortable. They're very comfortable with me. And, they don't care how much I win.
That's what I'm saying. It's a unique though, because there's like I said, 98%. There is a certain level and a certain thing where it doesn't really matter. And that's also like there's a lot of argument about home games and politics and who gets to play or private games. And you know, that's a whole nother subject.
You know, Jeff, I'm invited to every game on the planet. Okay.
Yeah.
And if I happen to be in a town, I'll always be invited. Okay. I'm invited to every single game and I never show up to them. So, I mean, there's a scarcity thing. People want to golf with Tiger Woods. People want to play basketball with Michael Jordan, you know, or LeBron James. And people want that experience of playing poker with me. And I don't sit in Vegas at a table waiting for people all the time. That's scarcity. I rarely show up to a game. So then when I do show up to a home game in LA, to one of my friends' home games, and it's, you know, the best comedian in the world and all these huge, I mean, names where you'd just be like household names that everybody knows.
Yeah.
They're just so excited to play with me. And I'm also excited to play with them. And sometimes I say, wow, that's the best artist in the world. That's the best comedian in the world. That's the best basketball player in the world. And they're all playing high stakes poker with me. I love the vibe. There's a certain air in that room. You know, it's a pleasure. It's an honor to be in that room.
For sure.
And, you know, and so it's also fun for me.
It is. It's a cool deal. Poker it's a great game. Obviously we love it. You've been in it forever. I've been in it. We're aligned with that. Tell me before we close out on this, on the duel, you end up getting Antonio in the second, and then just explain what is the maximum you could win? How does it work with the challenging? Could you go over the rules of that?
So $50,000 buy-in, and then Antonio can buy 50,000. So then he can challenge me. So so now my 100 stays in escrow at the Aria, and he has to put up 100 for the second match. I won that one.
Yep.
So now the third match, I have 200,000 in escrow, and he has to put up 200,000 to match me. Okay. Now I tried to sell $30,000 worth on U-Stake. Now I assumed it was going to sell out. I put a cap on it, but I said for sure it's going to sell out. I made these guys a free 120,000. Well, I only sold 12K. And they, and I said, let me know the number before I play the match and cut it off now. And they did. And I thought, wow, this is crazy. How can I make these people all this money? How can this not be sold out on U-Stake? How is it that everyone doesn't have an account there?
Because Antonio had on Stake Kings. I know that because I saw you both were posting on the respective, and now again they're one entity, which Stake Kings and U-Stake are together. But I saw that he was posting, you were posting. You sell 12K then of what you posted 30K. You said
30.
Yeah. Which
listen, JG. So I was filming last year. Okay. 2018. I'm filming a cash game, and I sold a piece of myself. I sold. I tried to sell $30,000, $40,000 worth, and I only sold 18K. Now I won 315,000 for that session, for those 2 or 3 days I filmed. So I won all the money, and then I found out later that I got to keep 12% because people didn't buy the remaining 12%. Same thing here. I only sold 12K of the 30K. Which means I got to keep that.
It's a bonus. So yeah, you're blind. You're just playing thinking you have this. You come back, it's like an extra win, right? Yeah, that's. Now
we're playing for 400,000. Now I have 90% of myself. Now, Jeff, I got to tell you, I didn't have a good feeling going into this match. I couldn't get to the good feeling, and I looked at Antonio, and I saw the hat he was wearing, and I saw the quiet confidence he had, and I saw the clothes he was wearing, and I'm like, this guy's ready, man. I beat him twice in a row. And there was more modesty. There's like, well, he said, I think Phil's a favorite this time. And I thought, wow, I don't want to hear that. I like playing the overconfident. I like playing the guys that think I suck because it's just easier. They don't understand that they should be focused. And Antonio's like, well, I think Phil's a favorite. And I was like, oh my God, this is, he is going to be tough today. And I didn't have a great feeling. I was freaked out that it might be kings against aces or something. And tried to clear all the negativity out of my mind. Mike the Mouth Matisow I called the night before. And I told him, I don't want, any advice from you in No Limit Hold'em, heads up, none. And, but I'd like to talk. And he gave me zero advice for 3 months. I play my way. I'm set in my way. I'm willing to adjust. But the thing is, when I sit down and I don't raise any pots, I'm looking to adjust. Suddenly I might raise 30 hands out of the next 50 hands. But if I can just raise none and win all the money, that's the way I'm going to play. It's safer, it's easier, keeps the variance down, lets my reading abilities kick in. So now we're on the third match. I don't have a great feeling, but I do know this. If I take the chip lead again, I'm not giving it up. That's what I told myself. If you take the chip lead again, unless it's hand over hand, don't bluff it off. Unless you know you're going to get away with the bluff. Don't blow the lead. And about the third or fourth or fifth hand, Antonio raised, I think third hand, and I called with King Jack. I limped in probably and called his raise. And the flop came Queen, 10, 8 with 2 hearts. And he had the Queen 7 of hearts. He had a huge hand. He flopped. Wow. He had an overcard. He had a 9. A lot of those cards I'm not paying off. And he had a heart draw. Big hand. So I check called. The turn was an ace. And now he needs a king to win also, But a queen's no good now because it would be 10 jack, queen, ace, and I'd have a king, which would be the nut straight. But he bet pretty big, and I called. And the river was a blank. And I checked, and he bet really big. And I just looked at him, and I'm like, he has nothing. And I called him at about the 19-second mark. I'm like, he has nothing. Put the money in, Phil. Call him quickly. And I did. And boom, all of a sudden I had 30,000. And so it was 230 to 170. And I said, I already knew I wasn't going to blow this chip lead.
Right. That's tough too. When you're down 2-0 and now there's a separation, you can kind of feel it. You just, there's some heads up so pure. It's so emotional, so mental. Really is like, it's such a battle, and it's hard. You can psych yourself out and you can get down.
Yeah. And he did battle back to take the chip lead for just 1 second. But then I got it back And then I did have a cooler, and well, I think I'd like to say it's a cooler in my favor, where, you know, he was just complaining about how I was so lucky against him. And I was thinking to myself, he has no idea. He, you know, and the announcers are talking about me being lucky. And I certainly did have more hands than he did. But luck is about hand over hand when you're playing heads up. I didn't have much of that in the first match. And so he's talking about how lucky I am. And I'm thinking, wow, he just doesn't understand. It doesn't matter if I have a full house and he puts in 0 money or I have a flush. But now the hand came up. But a lot of this is on him, the way this hand came up, JG. This is on him a lot. The flop, I limped in with Jack 9 of diamonds, and it came Queen of diamonds, 4 of diamonds, Jack of spades. He checked, I bet out, and he check raised me with like the 8-6 of diamonds. He's drawing completely dead.
Wow.
So now I re-raised him. I have a pair and a flush draw, and I'm like, I mean, I got to get the re-raise in here after playing my hand. And, you know, I would never have check raised with this hand. I would have check called. And now the ace of diamonds pops off. Now I make the second nuts.
Right.
And he bets like 17,000 and 18,500. And I just decided I'm just going to call. I'm going to call. I can't beat the king high flush, but I mean, obviously I'm never folding this. He did check raise, which he could easily have had a king high flush draw or an ace high flush draw, but he couldn't have an ace high flush draw because he would have raised with the ace. And of course the ace popped up anyway.
Yeah. And Antonio's probably going to work in some, especially with your strategy. He's probably going to get some king X suited raises in on your limp or your
exactly.
button.
He's probably would raise with king X suited. So,
yeah.
So I'm not that worried. And I decided to smooth call. If I had to do it again, I may have raised. I don't know. The river was an offsuit 10. It's a great card. So now the board is 10, Jack, Queen, Ace. Mm-hmm. And now Antonio bets 32,000. And I'm studying and I'm studying and I'm studying and I have to raise. But I don't want to move in. I want to give myself room to fold. I have the second nuts, but we're really deep. And I'm thinking, you know, and plus if I move in, I mean, I think he probably folds. Nick Schulman was in the commentary booth saying, Phil needs to move in, Phil needs to move in. I disagree. But I can't just call either. So
right. It's tricky too when the commentators can see the cards. Even Nick Schulman, world class, one of the best players, announcers, same thing. Like there's more to it, right? It sometimes seems
Nick's
like
world class, one of the best announcers and a great player.
Yeah.
But I don't like the move in line at all because it lets him fold a smaller flush. When I move in, generally means that I just have it. So I studied and I'm like, God dang it. You know, there's only 30 seconds left on the clock here. All right, I have to raise him. So I raised 40,000 and then he started saying, oh my God, you have a king high flush. Music to my ears, you know, music to my ears.
Yeah, it's the best.
And I'm studying and I'm like, yes, now I know I haven't beat. Now just don't make a move because Antonio really, truly is a world-class player and he'll pick up on anything you give him. So I'm just like this.
Right. Yep. One of the best.
I give him nothing and he calls within 30 seconds. And now I have a massive lead. But I'll tell you, the setup hand that came up earlier, JG, that won the match for me, is Antonio limped in, and I raised it. I raised like way over the size of the pot with 9-3 offsuit. Okay, got me?
Yeah. Yep. 9-3 off. Yep.
It gets back to him. He makes it 18,000 to go, and I'm like, I know I think he has like ace rag. That was my thinking, and I can move in and take it away. I said, how much do you have left? Now, if you go back and watch this match, I used in the third match 0 time banks, except for this one hand with 9-3 offsuit. So what's happened? He's limped in. I've raised over the size of the pot, and he's re-raised to 18,000. So now I'm like, all right, I need a time bank. My instincts are moving. And it's just going, I'm going crazy in my mind. You got to move in, you got to move in, you got to move in.
Right.
And so finally, I throw in my first time bank, which means I took 30 seconds. And I'm thinking, I now have 59 seconds to think. Okay. And I'm thinking the whole time, you have to move in, you have to move in, you have to move in, you have to move in. And finally, at the 59-second mark, I mean, I'm also thinking you're going to look like an idiot if you give him the chip lead with 9-3 offsuit. Mm-hmm. You're sitting on he has 110,000. You have 290. Don't give it away like this. But I kept thinking, he can't call. But don't give it away. Don't give it away. Don't. So I folded the 59-second mark.
Do you
And I
have it?
said,
You had a
would you
big
have
hand?
called? He said, yes. And I said, I don't think you could call. And as time unfolded over the next hand or two, I told him I had 9-3 offsuit, which he believed and was true. I don't lie about hands when they're televised.
Mm-hmm.
I just basically just don't lie about hands when they're televised. I might insinuate something because that's part of the tactics of the game.
Right.
But it came to light that he had ace-7 offsuit. And I said, there's no way you're – he said, I was calling you 100%. I said, I don't think you can call, bro. It's one thing to say you think I was weak, but I'm Phil Hellmuth. I always have it. And I don't think you can find
that hand's also, that hand doesn't do that well, even against your bluffs. Like if you have a, whatever, it just doesn't do well. Performs very badly.
18,000, he had in there, and maybe he does call it off for the last 95,000 or whatever it was. Well, he might have called, and then that might have given him the match.
But see, this is a perfect example of what I'm talking about in terms of GTO or not, because like when you play a heads up strategy or a game, this is something like Wizards or GTO. So you're working in 9-3 off. Like there's hands like bluff hands, and like people know sort of, all right, with these hands, like there's just like a no equity. That's just like a stone cold spot read point of the game to go for it. Because like someone say, oh, well, you should have at least 9-3 suited, or, like you're just taking like literally any two spot there and picking it. Whereas like some people would just say, well, no, you can't do that because that's not one of the hands you should be 4-bet bluffing. Right. So it's just like you have your own sort of formula that works for you. And it's, Phil, what
dude, I never 3-bet or 4-bet a pot. And I studied for, a minute, and I studied for a minute and 29 seconds thinking about moving in the only time bank I used in the whole match with a 9 and a 3. But I also knew what was going to happen later, because Antonio is predictable in the fact that he never limps with ace, queen, ace, king, ace, jack. He always raises with those hands. And so because he's looking to play big pots. And so, but he started limping with ace rags. So I thought to myself, this could work out to my favor. I'm going to tell you 2 more hands from that match, and we'll move on to high stakes poker.
No, I love it. This is great. Yeah.
Okay. So late in the match, he raises with 2 red 9s, and I call with 4-7 of clubs. The blinds are 2,000, 4,000, I believe. I call, and the flop comes deuce of clubs. No, excuse me. Deuce of spades, 3 of clubs, 5 of clubs. I flop a straight flush draw. I need a 6 of clubs for a straight flush, an open ender, and I have a 7 as an overcard. I check, and he bets, and I'm thinking, man, I'm everybody else moves in here. Do I want to gamble? And I thought, if he snap calls me with 10s or whatever, I'm going to be 55% or whatever, maybe 60. That's not good enough for me. Let everybody else move in their stacks when they're small favorites. That's not good enough for me. So I called. Now the 5 paired, and I checked, and he bet like 15,000 into like 30,000. And I folded. And I just knew that was one where I knew the announcers would have called, and the whole planet would have called. Everybody's calling there. No one's folding the 4-7 of clubs there.
Right.
No one. But I just thought, man, Antonio's so good. He could have an ace-high flush draw, in which case I'm basically dead. Or he could have a full house. He could have like deuces or 3s here because he's never checking a full house behind. He's always betting it. And I thought, I'm just going to fold this hand. It took me the 29-second mark, and I folded. But I'm also aware that no one else folds that hand on the planet. Yeah, and no one understands why I folded it, which is great for me. Right. I just feel like in some cases, it feels like the planet's still a little bit, even the great players are still a little bit behind in the way they game things out, to me. And so I folded. In a cash game, am I folding? No. In a cash game, I might have just moved in on the flop. I'm never folding, ever. In most tournaments, I'm not folding.
Right.
But I just thought there might be a better spot.
And
lo and behold, the better spot came, within 10 hands. And this is the final hand of the match, where Antonio limped in, and I'd been waiting. I knew if I overraised, he might put me on 9-3 again. So I overraise. He limps in for, I want to make sure the blinds are right. Yeah, I think we were playing 15 and 3. Okay. not 2 and 4.
Okay.
So I made it 10,000 more. And I just thought Antonio's going to perceive this as weakness. And he starts studying and studying. I have ace 10 of diamonds. And I'm like, God, I need him to move in here. I need him to move in here. I need him to move in here. And I'm going like this. And I tried to give my best weak tell, JG.
Okay.
I'll tell you what I did. But I showed a bunch of my mouth, which I haven't done in years. If you look at me, I never show it.
Yeah, I don't see you showing.
And I thought he's got to read this as weakness. He's a live player. He has to read this as weakness. Now, what really sucks is when you induce somebody to move in and they somehow show you ace jack and you're like, oh my God. So
it's true, yeah.
He moves all in for 144,000 and I snapped him. He said, I'm all in. I said, I call with ace 10. And now Nick Schulman's about to say, oh my God, Phil induced it. But they start talking in the booth. They never got around to that.
Right.
And I thought, wow, I played this hand so beautifully. I induced him to move in with ace 3 or whatever it was.
Right.
I got him to move in his whole stack with an ace and a 3. And, tight Phil, who folds ace 10 all day, just set that hand up and snap called.
Well, it's sort of like your example you're talking about, just like in the World Series where you fold ace 10 in a spot where like it's sort of a snap and a fist pump. And here, you do snap and you're right. And then, so, I mean, it goes to your point, right? It's like, it's just, you got to be in tune to the game, the situation, the little things, and go with your heart and go with your read.
But it was the setup of the 9-3. I just knew later in the match, I was going to over raise with the hand and hopefully he would fall for it and move in. He did exactly that. I snapped it off. I mean, it was just so quick when you watch the video. And
I didn't
Nick
see that hand.
Was about to say, "Oh my God, what happened?" Phil just called, almost 50 big blinds with an ace 10. That's completely not him. But I set it up that way. And so,
wow.
But now, of course, I could still lose, right? And now I'm like, oh God, don't give him a 3. But I've been through this before. Chris Ferguson once hit a deuce and cost me the NBC Heads Up Championship, and I got him. I won it later. He once hit a 9 on me on the river. He had a 4-outer for me to win the title. He hit it. He had a 2-outer with one to come. He hit that. And both times I just sat down and counted my chips because you can't. The first time I fell on the floor, which was great television. And the second time I just counted the chips. So in this case, I'm like, all right, he's likely to hit a 3 here. So here's the 100. And I counted it out. Everybody else was, talking and getting ready to spread the cards. I counted out the 100 and I put it in the pot. And I said, okay, that's not my money now. So I looked down and I said, what do I have left? Okay.
This is on the ace 10 to ace 3 hand or before you're talking before? So you were ready to lose that hand. You had put it in and you thought you might lose. You just counted out and you were ready for that if it had to.
Yeah, of course. Because these things happen.
Right.
And it's not about, at the end of time, what am I going to do? Am I going to be talking in 5 years about how I had Antonio and he had ace 3 and I had ace 10? I might mention it to 2 or 3 people, but nobody cares.
Right.
Antonio would have won.
Yes.
Whatever. It's not that. Nobody cares.
Right.
So I can't think that way. I don't want a story. I want a title.
Right.
And so now I'm thinking, all right, I still have, if he wins this hand, I still have, 112,000 left or whatever. I'm looking at this, thinking, okay, I still have a chance. I mean, it's fine. The blinds are 15-3. And you're starting to, you don't want to go crazy. Right. And Antonio, of course, playing his game, gets up and says, nice game.
He puts the coat on his man purse thing and is out like, I know his whole stick. He does it all the time.
And tries to shake my hand early for the 3rd match in a row. He got it in bad. And I didn't shake his hand the other 2 times. It comes over to shake my hand early. You can't accept that. I mean,
right.
There's, you look back at the Masters golf tournament where they told Arnold Palmer he'd won and he blew up the last 3 holes. I mean, you cannot accept early victory. When the victory's there, great, take it.
Not over till it's over.
Accept it.
Similar to the election, Phil. The election is exciting to talk about as well. It's never over.
That'll be our next thing. But anyway, I'm watching the cards come down, and it comes ace, jack, 8, and then a queen. And Antonio left the room, I think. Now he's come back, and now he's shouting for an 8 for a tie. 8, 8, 8. And I'm just like, oh, can we just...
The top's the worst. When you're like a big down, not like the ace 2 to ace 6, but like the ace, 10 strong versus a weak ace. When it chops, it feels like a loss as well. It's
of course.
It does.
So, by the way, I got the board wrong. It was ace, king, jack, 8.
Okay.
So
yeah, he's
it'll
got
come
some out
ace, king, 8, and then
to
a
tie.
jack. And so he's shouting for an 8. A jack ties, a king ties. And luckily the river was a 7 and I had a title, and I'm just like, yes. And, and it felt really good because, I played that last hand, it was a setup from previously, and I was proud of that hand. So now I've won that. So now I'm in Vegas, and now I know that I have to film. It's called a Wednesday night, and now I know I have to film high stakes poker on Tuesday. And so I'm like, oh my God, I'm so tired, because when you play for 400,000, that was the one. I think that was the one where I was flipped out on the way in, where I was almost shaking, because I kept thinking about how much money. I never act like this, JG, but I was lying on the floor 10 months before the match, just freaked out, trying to listen to music, don't have any panic attacks, all the stuff. And then when I sit at the table and Nick Schulman's interviewing us, I'm calm and I feel good. But I know that I'm jittery. I know that I haven't slept much. I know all of this. And I make the decision. I call my wife, said, honey, I just can't fly home. I just need the weekend to rest, because we're going to risk another 400,000 next week. And I want it to be 100% of our money. I always sell pieces. And so she's like, you know what? Sounds like you need to rest. I said, why don't you fly to Vegas? No, no chance. Okay, honey, whatever. And so, so what was supposed to be a 5-day trip to Vegas, now all of a sudden I'm going to be there 16, 17 days. And so, just resting and getting ready for Tuesday. And, watching my football in my room on Saturday and Sunday.
Aria, of course, right? You're in Aria. It's not like it's a nice place to be. It is a nice place to be. 2 things I want to touch on. First, explain the format. Double. You win the third. Now, so you have to play 3. That is the rule. You have to accept 3. Is that how it works? Can you talk to me?
And I told them that if I won, I was done. So I was going to take the 400,000 and put it in the bank. So that money went into the Aria bank. I think I tipped 5,000, which is a huge amount these days compared to what everybody else tips. But that's, I'm one of the biggest tippers for the dealers and the floor staff in history.
I can confirm that.
So I tipped 5K, and they're like, that's so generous. A lot of the kids are tipping a lot less than that.
Abundance. That's the way to live. Live in abundance, pay it forward, be generous, the good things come. I love that. And so you win that. And so now what is Antonio like? Who has the throne? Like, are you going to play?
So then they asked me, they said, will you accept Phil Ivey as your next challenge? And I said, yes. Or will you accept Tom Dwan as your next challenge? And I said, yes. So whichever one happens to be in town at the time will play me. I think it's Dwan and I for the next round. Tom Dwan and I.
Wow.
Which will be great television. He and I have a history too of, I think it was the 2007 NBC Heads Up Championships where he beat me in the first round. I had aces, he had 10s, and I had some words for him afterwards. But honestly, Tom Dwan and I have drank together. We've hung out together. We've played high stakes poker together. We've been to the craps table together. Baccarat table together.
Legendary name. No question. That's going to be this format obviously works. And I do want to talk about high stakes poker, but just staying on this subject of format. We saw another exciting heads up. They called it duel for you and Antonio. Now we had the feud between Daniel Negreanu and Doug Polk, this has been years coming. I know you're in the Negreanu camp. You and Daniel know each other, been from this, from the get-go of poker, and a very good friend of yours, very good friend of mine, also been on the podcast, and just a great guy. And it's exciting. Now, from what I saw, very little, but and I predicted this. I had a feeling this would happen. I know both of them. And I think fundamentally, they're just they're smart, intelligent guys, and they have a little bit of a beef. There's a little whatever. They've gone at each other. It's been pretty intense, but I actually saw this whole thing play out. I really saw them almost it looked like they were best friends. They were talking. It was very cordial, and it wasn't much of a feud.
Did you watch the whole thing?
I did not. I saw Phil, I got an 18-month-old and I'm trying to survive just day by day. It's a miracle to get up and
dude, you're too busy. Honestly.
Yeah, I have not seen it. I saw part of it. I was tuning in. I had it on the side. I watched a little bit.
So I didn't watch it live. Now Daniel Negreanu, Mike Matusow, I bet 15,000 on Negreanu at 4-1 to win, right with Doug Polk.
Yep.
And Doug Polk filmed with me in high stakes poker last week. He made the best laydown I've seen in 3 years. When we get to that, when we start talking about high stakes poker, we'll shift gears and talk about some of the crazy things that happened there.
Okay.
And how much fun we had. But for now, we're talking about the Negreanu. So I was just literally watching the hand 2 minutes before I called you. So I watched last night hands 50 through 200. And then I watched hands, I was up to hand 10 or 11 when I had to come on live with you. So right when we're done with, someone to watch the rest of the match.
When you got to come on live, Phil, you got to come on. This wasn't a had to. This is a want, right? You said, and I had to come on, Phil. This is good. We're excited to be here, Phil. Come on.
No, I agree. But I'm just saying, yeah, I didn't mean to spin that in any negative way.
I'm giving you a hard time, Phil. Your book, I got a post here for your positivity. I'm just saying, like, let's just get our verbatimage right, Phil. Right there.
Bring it, JG.
Yeah, come on.
You got me, and you're right, by the way. Now shut up and let's move on.
Give me a hard time. Go ahead.
So, I mean, I watched the match. I thought Daniel played excellent poker. I think that, I will send a text to Daniel after I'm done with you and after I watch the rest of the match with some observations about his match. Not that Daniel necessarily has a tremendous amount of respect about the way I play poker. He does know I'm one of the all-time greats. I did notice something that I'm going to tell him because I bet $15,000 on him. Listen, my biggest sports bet every year is $10K, and that's on NFL futures. And I've won that bet 8 years in a row. I have Miami to win 6 games. So now they're 4-3, which is crazy. When they were 1-3, I was a little worried. And I also bet Tampa Bay to win 9.5 games for $5K. And my regular sports betting is about $1,000 a game, which I seem to not do as well in. But this year, if you look at my pick of the week on my Twitter, I'm 5-2-1.
Yeah, it's pretty strong. You definitely seem to be dialed into that.
I was 5-1-1, but then everything I picked you know how sometimes it comes down to 2 or 3 games? All 3 games I would have picked last week as my pick of the week lost. So sometimes you're like, oh, I knew this was the pick of the week. Yeah, some randomness in the NFL, but I've really been thinking a lot, watching 6 games a week, trying to give the public a great pick because I'm going to be involved in some sports betting sites soon. You might find me being the face of a big sports betting empire soon will be announced. So I'm really working on the sports.
I saw that, Phil. I feel I'm too dialed in. I knew that I saw your pick of the week stuff and going on. I saw this coming, but this is I think it's a good fit, and it's great that sports is getting legalized at a federal level and going to be state by state. Because it's just crazy, right? Like people betting across the world. You want to bet a little bit and have some fun. Like, listen, you can't. If people want to bet, they're betting. That's the crazy thing, right? Like it's like you're not. Yeah. This isn't rocket science. Like if someone wants to bet a game, they have a local bookie or they find a way to bet. You're not really, you're just losing money for the taxpayers. And it's about time America's getting with the times. Election, we got to cover too, Phil. We got a lot to cover. So I do want to say the Negreanu poll, I know who you bet on. Last night, I did see the outcome. I did see some of the highlight hands. Daniel looked dialed in. I saw a few people. It's funny because I was on a call with Bill Perkins yesterday, who also is betting heavy Daniel camp. And I know the coaches Daniel's working with that. For some reason, they didn't want to talk about it, allude to. I know the people his camp, and definitely very sharp, know what they're doing. And, Daniel's a smart guy too. It's not like you're picking a guy off the street. Daniel is going to be studying GTO, studying heads up. Like he can, I'm sure, apply it pretty quickly. So I like it at that price. I do. I think 4-1 is like,
dude, I will be honest with you. I like Daniel at 4-1 if he didn't study anything because he just has so much talent.
That's exactly. And
in fact, I was a little bit like, I'm contrarian to everybody else in the sense that I think Daniel had all the skills he needed already. Now, I do think he needed a little work heads up, so I'm glad he put it in.
Right.
But I don't want him to be overcoached.
Right. Yeah. No, it's important.
Yeah. He did some strange things. He put in a lot of 3 bets, which one of those 3 bets, if he tried it against me, I think I would have just moved all in on him and won a big pot.
The King 9 Ace Queen.
Yeah.
Yeah, I saw that one. I did see that hand. I saw the 6-10 of clubs and Queen.
When somebody 4-bets you for 10K and you have 50K, okay, or 11K or 12, whatever it was, that's an opportunity to look at them. And I think Doug has pretty good reads, and I'll tell you the hand he and I played last week. Yeah, eventually in a minute.
Doug's.
But I mean, like I saw him hesitating, like he seemed to know when Danny was weak and strong, and he almost moved in there. And if he moves in there, I think the whole match is different. So Daniel left himself vulnerable to be moved in on, by when he had King 9 offsuit. in
Yeah,
a
and he ended up
spot
following
where.
through on a I think it was a Jack 10 board. He had
Yeah,
a good hand to
Daniel
follow
played
through
the
with.
hand
And,
great, but I'd like to see, like, if he's playing me, I might have just. I mean, I'd like to would have found the move in button before the flop.
right. Ace
Just
Queen's a
zip it.
tricky one to play. It's also one of those not really. It's like so strong, but it's not really a trapping kind of hand.
It's
So it's
not. It's not a tournament. You have rebuys in these things, and Doug's going to see that Daniel exposed himself too much with King 9, and so but. Whatever. I mean, Daniel said afterwards, he invoked my name afterwards and said, Phil would not approve of this hand. And he's right.
well, there you go. So again, I don't want to spend too much time on that, but it is exciting. We all, we know these guys very well, and these are two huge names, and they do have a sort of a tiff, but it did look like they sort of were working it out. And I think this is good too. It's also good to see, I'll say this. I play on Twitch. I play with a lot of people. A poker, and there's times where it's also good to have a little rivalry, a little bit of like, you got to kind of want to go at someone. If you're just playing buddy with everyone too, it's not as, it makes it a little more fun when there's a little extra zoom on there, but it's also nice.
Beefs and rap do well. The rappers that are beefing with each other, they
both
seem to benefit.
But it's also good to see guys that can kind of like hash it out a bit and are like, all right, like, hey, I don't agree with you on certain things. I don't like certain things you do, but I'm not just like set in stone and you're a bad person, or I'm not, I'm just going to hate you like unconditionally no matter what. It's kind of nice to see these guys, at least from the time being, they look like they were very cordial and having even fun and chatting. And it was,
I agree. I thought that was great for poker. You have two guys that have been beefing for a long time. Doug's really gone after Daniel. And when they sat down to play, they were super nice to each other, super cordial, laughing and joking. It looked like they were going out to dinner afterwards, which I think is actually good for poker. I'm with you.
It's great. No, I think it's great. And although some people, of course, people love drama, they would love to see like a
the drama got people watching it.
Yes, exactly. All right, let's cover as well. I want to talk high stakes poker quickly. The election, because you've been active about the bettings. You've shown the lines. That night, the first night, Trump looked like he was all of a sudden running away. He was a massive dog. I think he hopped up to like -6, 700, 775 even, and it looked like it was almost a wrap. People very confident. Matt Glantz on the other side. Some of these other guys that were saying Trump is Biden's a stone lock the whole way. They look sick. There was a really nice coverage show. I know you were doing one with Shamath and some others that night. And also I was checking in on Brian Micon. They had a really cool setup.
I did that one too for about a half an hour.
Yeah, really nicely. Like that was actually what I was streaming, but I was sweating that because like I could see the percentages and they did a great job. And it's just so people are so proud about politics and like when it comes to religion, politics, people are so opinionated. Like they're just blind, like tunnel vision at all times. This guy's going to win. This guy's going to win. Super action. So much money's being bet on this election, state by state. It's insane action right now. Even right now, it looks like it's over, but then there's still like Trump's a wild card recount.
5.5 to 1.
Is it
right before I got on the show?
25 to 1?
5.5 to 1.
Oh, I was going to say, I didn't know. 25 to 1 is basically a curtain call, but 5.5. Yeah. I mean, that's what I'm saying. Like, who knows? Like, who really knows what's going on? What's your take? So 5.5 to 1, you like it. What do you think the odds really are?
So in 2016 election, the street.com came to me and they said, hey, can you write an article about lags for us? Loose aggressive players, we think Trump's a lag. So I wrote an article differently than they wanted. And then I wrote another article. So I wrote 4 or 5 articles for the street.com. So if you go to the street.com and you put in Phil Hellmuth, you'll see my articles. Millions of people read my articles. Mm-hmm. And I thought, wow, this is pretty cool. All of a sudden, I'm considered an expert on presidential politics because I wrote 5 articles on how Trump won, which, Matt Glantz gave me a nice compliment. He said, Phil, you were super sharp. He said he couldn't believe it. Yeah, there it is. Yep. Okay. So those articles I wrote were observations I had on how Trump was doing it. And one was I accused him, and I'm in the neutral, I'm in the middle politically. Right.
Yeah, I'm Newton Sane.
So I pointed out to people that he was using I called it playground tactics.
Okay.
And labeling people. And when I saw Ted Cruz, I thought, liar. When I saw Jeb Bush, I thought low energy. Trump did that to me. And I'm a very, very strong individual who's not easily deluded. And so I was like, all right. So I wrote that article about playground tactics. People really liked that. I wrote another one about talking about the history of the presidential races, how all these people had harpoon moments. What's a harpoon moment? A harpoon moment was, was Gary Hart, who was 87% to win the presidency, saying, "Oh, well, if you think I'm cheating on my wife, why don't you follow me around with cameras?" Well, they did, and they caught him, and he lost the election. This was a lock to be our next president. Gary
When was
Hart.
this?
Call it 1987.
Okay.
I'd have to look, but he was a
Wow.
lock.
I don't even
And
know that
so,
name. Okay.
There's a movie about his life recently that I think that whoever the X-Men guy played him. Who's that? Who stars as the X-Men?
Hugh Jackman.
No, who stars as Wolverine?
Hugh Jackman.
Hugh Jackman stars as him. It's an interesting movie. But I pointed out in my article that Gary Hart was the first one with a harpoon moment. Another one before your time is when Dukakis was debating George Bush Sr. And they said, "What would you do if you're there it is, the front runner."
Is this new? I don't, this in 2018?
Yeah.
Wow. I got to see this. That's okay.
Yeah. Gary Hart, man. I mean, he was the next president. I mean, his numbers were up. So then Dukakis is debating George Bush, and they say, "Hey, if someone raped your wife and killed her and you found him, what would you do?" And Bush said, "I'd kill him." And Dukakis was trying to be, PC. And that moment cost him the election because people are like, wow, you would let your wife get, And so we have throughout history, people have harpoon moments. Well, Trump had a harpoon moment where he came right out the box and said, all these Mexicans are rapists and murderers. And that was his harpoon moment. His campaign should have been gone. He should have been done. But he did something no one else has done before. He doubled down on that claim, never backed off. And so I was pointing out to people that all these in the history of politics, all these people have had harpoon moments, but Trump somehow survived his and doubled down on it and then actually won. So those are just two of the articles I wrote. So I love presidential politics. I saw a bunch of stuff this year, but I lost contact with the people at thestreet.com, or I would have written 3 more articles because I was seeing things. And generally speaking, my observations are very interesting to my group of people. And then they're very interesting to the world because, I kind of spotlight what I see and people are like, that's right. And so anyway, I did some, live tweeting about the odds. And, as it started with, Biden about minus $1.80. And then he went all the way to minus $1.35. Then he came back up to $1 minus $1.50. And then all of a sudden at 8:30 at night, in the Pacific, out here in 11:30 Eastern, Trump was exactly even with him, and I thought to myself, I've seen this movie before. And then all of a sudden, Trump was
minus 600 at one moment, wasn't he, or minus 4?
Yeah, let me continue my story.
Yeah.
Then he was 3-1 favorite, 2-1 favorite. Then he was 3-1 favorite. Then he was 4-1 favorite. Then he was 5-1 favorite. And it may have gone. JG, did you say you saw it at 7?
I mean, I saw like on Odd Sharks on it was like minus 700 or minus 770. Yeah. Actually, Bovada ACR on there they had it like minus 775 for a moment, I thought, or something like that.
Right, and then when Biden came on and spoke and said, "I'm confident in our position," I thought, just another politician who's bluffing. I'm confident in our position. What is he talking about? He's lost the election, and you saw Jason Mercier, Empire Maker. Who's Empire Maker?
He's like a very famous daily fantasy player, very
poker player, ex-poker player.
Yeah, I think he used to play cards too. Yeah.
So he said, I'll lay anybody in the world 2-1 if you want to bet on Trump. So Jason Mercier, I heard bet 400,000, snapped it. And then all of a sudden Mercier became 7-1 favorite from 2-1 underdog for 400,000. I assume he laid it off. And then as I'm watching, it gets to maybe be 11 o'clock out here. Liv Boeree posts something and she says, I'll take Biden at 3-1. And I thought, oh my God. So Liv's seeing something like the really, really smart people. Billions of dollars can be made on political betting. And the really smart people, of which Liv is one of them, understood that the people that had voted first and were roughly 80% Biden, their votes were being counted last.
Right. Well,
now we all know this. We've watched it all unfold. I watched till 7 a.m. Eastern time, the coverage. And it looks like Biden's our next president. But, so Liv said, I'll take 3-1 on Biden. I think she got action. She wanted 30,000 to 90,000. She looks like a genius. Jason Mercier looks like a genius if he just laid off. It's not hard to lay off if you bet 400,000. If that bet got down, and I think it did, 400 to win 800 on Trump. Now all he has to do is bet, 100,000 the other way, and he's going to either win 800,000 or 300,000. So I don't know what Mercier ended up doing, but I mean, a lot of money is being bet on the elections, and generally speaking, the odds don't mean this. All the bullshit that they showed on CNN, they were so far behind. They're talking about Florida. We can't call Florida yet, and I'm looking at an odds site saying Florida. If you want to bet Biden on Florida, you can get 10-1 right now. So I'm like, why is CNN an hour or two behind? Why are the networks an hour or two behind the really sharp people on the planet who are betting? So I will, forever, every time there's a presidential election, I will be dialed into these sites watching the real numbers.
Right.
I mean, they were 4 hours ahead of CNN.
Huge margins. Huge margins.
4 hours later.
There was a basically I saw a clip from Jimmy Kimmel and who was the guy, Bernie Sanders, basically explaining it. It makes sense. Like it's sort of like, yeah, these votes like that, the mail-in ballots, they're large numbers and more Democrat. That's the way. And he basically called it. And other people are talking about this. Trump would come on, have a big lead, declare he's the winner, basically say it's over. And then like now now it looks like a huge controversy because it's like, so now it's like hard to know what to believe. And then
I don't even think it's a controversy. I think that Trump understands that he's lost. I think that, he might still be he posted something like stop the voting, right? Stop the counts or something.
Right. But keep counting in Arizona because he's behind.
Right. I think what's going to happen is Trump's going to concede today or tomorrow. And I think he's going to run in 2024. And a lot of my friends think that Trump would have won in a landslide, except for all those mail-in ballots, because most Democrats don't vote. And because there were so many mail-in ballots, I think Trump would have won it in a landslide, except for all these mail-in ballots. But not only do I think that, all of my really smart friends believe that's the case. So, and then that causes another issue. My wife was in tears because she's, she feels like Trump's a little misogynistic. And so, and then she went to bed at midnight. And when she woke up at 5 a.m. or whatever, I'm like, oh, by the way, it looks like Biden's the favorite again. Now I'm more in the middle politically than my wife. I mean, I understand that, I think I consider myself reasonable. Yeah. Any person on the planet that thinks that, like, say Trump did 900 things, JG, and anybody that can't admit he's done 50 good things, I can't even have a discussion with.
Right.
You can tell me if you want, that he's perceived as racist. You can tell me if you want that he's been divisive for the country. You can tell me if you want that he's been perceived as misogynistic. You can tell me all these things. I'll agree, but if you're a reasonable person, you understand that he did 50 good things out of 900 decisions, at least, because you're reasonable. But it's, but I keep running into these people that claim he did 0 good things.
Well, religion and politics are too, like, those aren't good poker table conversations generally, right? People
are too stuck in the emotion.
Yes, in one or the other, in one way.
They can't be reasonable. They can't be logical. They can't admit
be rational.
He's done a few good things.
Yeah. Yeah, we're on this. We're pretty much in the exact same spot. Same thing though. Just like with betting, there are times where if you tell me the certain price on Trump or whatever, like I think it was going to be pretty close. And if you get laid the right price in the right spot, like it doesn't mean I like Trump or like Biden. It's like, all right, well at this price, like I feel it's a good bet. Like at the end of the day. Now,
dude, think about this, Jeff. Think about this. If you wanted to start a business to try to make a couple $100 million betting on presidential politics, I believe someone's already done that, but they didn't tell anybody because the polling is so far off, right? Mm-hmm. And I think that there's a huge opportunity to make a lot of money. And with the swings where you could bet Biden now at 5.5 to 1, minus 5.5 to 1, and yet 24 hours ago or whenever it was, you could bet the other way at minus 5.5 to 1. that's tremendous opportunity
Huge
to make
spreads.
a lot of money betting.
Spreads.
And
It
somebody's
is.
going to come up with this and do this.
Yeah.
But no, I'm not pro-Republican. I'm not pro-Democrat. I really am in the middle, but I'd like to consider myself the R party, and by that, not Republican, reasonable.
Right. Well,
I'm the RE party, reasonable.
I love it. I think also
REAS party. That's me.
I think it's also very important as American citizens, and with that, we do have democracy. We are, we do a lot of things right. Politics are a little, corrupt worldwide. Like you could argue all this stuff and say it's not great, but it's important also, I think, to embrace and respect and give your support to whoever wins. I'd like people talking about maybe civil war and all this other stuff and crazy and these different movements and Antifa and Black Lives Matter, all these different things. I mean, this is important, like I think, for people to be able to accept the winner and embrace them and say, okay, look, didn't go exactly wanted. Let's give them a chance. Let's support them. Let's be positive. And
I was a little disappointed. I was a little disappointed when Trump won at the reaction by some of the Democrats, and that was a little disappointing for me. But again, I just didn't feel like it's fine to have some protests, but I think I heard some people go really crazy. It's fine to have protests and all that kind of stuff. But anyway, I like I said, I'm in the middle politically, and I guess it's in my nature to try to see the good in everyone.
For
Sometimes
sure.
it's harder.
Well, let's talk quickly about what that means and what you believe it means, whether Biden or Trump wins. At this point, it is significantly. I think the numbers at this point, there's less room, right? It's like night one, votes are coming in, the odds are shifting. At this point, that's like a pretty firm line. I mean, like it takes something that's going to happen. There's only a few events now that can change the course of the odds. So, I mean, it does appear Biden will be president. Let's just focus on that. We had Trump in office. Sorry, what does Biden mean for poker? Do you believe there's a shift in gaming, gambling, online gaming? If Biden wins, does that maybe help poker?
I mean, remember that Donald Trump was trying to start he believed in poker in 1996 and filmed. And, there's a clip of him Donald Trump commenting on Phil Hellmuth at a poker table with 3 players left and asking questions. So that clip exists. You go to YouTube and Phil Hellmuth, Donald Trump.
Okay.
And so I think that, and then, my agent came to me and said, Trump wants you to be the face behind him of his online poker site. So I think Trump was pro poker,
right,
but never had a chance to get anything done there.
Well, he's also, in bed with Sheldon Adelson on stuff, and I think Sheldon Adelson gave him like $25 million for his campaign. Sheldon Adelson, the biggest adversary the biggest, he's the one trying to stop online.
Sheldon Adelson, I don't know if people don't know this, but Sheldon Adelson has single-handedly stopped online poker.
Exactly. I think
people don't understand that. They think I'm lying.
He's selling Venetian or the Sands, I believe they're trying to, or maybe doing that right now. So, I don't know, but I kind of feels like I think Biden, in terms of net for poker, it might be a good thing. And truthfully, it just makes sense with COVID, with things closed and with taxes and online game, all these things. It just seems like kind of a no-brainer. If you look at what are some quick ways, Michigan passed, they're going to have it. Pennsylvania passed. Biden's from Pennsylvania, I think his home, whatever. And Democrats are generally more favorable, I think, for that type of stuff. So, like, I don't know. It just seems like there could be a change. And, they look quickly, what could we do fast that would bring in more tax revenue, legalizing online poker, which already could sort of piggyback on the sports at a legal federal level. It just seems sort of obvious, but maybe still it's too hard and complicated and could take years. But I don't know. I think that could be better for poker, most likely.
It would be pretty cool if we could start it in California. And, I probably should have gotten some time with Newsom. He and I were at some parties together a few years ago, and I just didn't really, but anyway, I think California, I will tell you this much. If California ever legalizes poker, they're going to make a ton of revenue, and there are going to be an absolute ton of poker professionals that move to California.
Oh, yeah. No, I think California was the third
bigger
largest,
than Italy. California's bigger than Italy.
It was the third largest market overall of any country or something. Some crazy stat back when it was the legal U.S. like that. That alone was like it's enough for us. Yeah, I mean, it's just massive. So that'll be interesting. Let's talk I want to make sure we get to questions, Phil. We've got a record amount of questions, and we're not going to be able to get to all those, but you guys can ask a question on Twitter. If you go to my pinned tweet, you can see we're giving away a $111 ticket at the end of the show. You can ask a question. You will be eligible. And we've got almost 140. That is a record for this 101 podcast. We're over 100 now. This is 101. We got Phil here, and you guys can ask a question. We'll take some time and do that coming up here shortly.
Jeff, you want to hear my lineup for high stakes poker on
Yes,
Tuesday?
that's what I was asking. Let's talk high stakes poker before we move forward. Yes, give me the rundown.
I thought this was the toughest lineup in history.
Okay.
No, and that's a big statement. Tom Dwan, Phil Ivey, Ben Lamb, Jason Kuhn,
Okay.
Brandon Adams, and Phil Hellmuth.
Wow.
Wow. I was just like, what is going on here? And I will say this. I did talk to Mike Madison, although I would never ask him. I would never talk to him and speculate on strategies for heads up. He and I do talk no limit hold'em a lot.
He's won the NBC heads up, right? I mean,
I know, but he's just okay.
Okay.
Well, enough. You can give him credit for that. I won't. All but
right. I got it. I'm with
Mikey is Mikey. But when it comes to no limit hold'em cash games, we've been talking about it on the phone almost every day since February because I played, 5 months straight online. I picked up like a little less than $1 million, but maybe 700. But anyway, and I stopped playing August 1st. I was just like, screw it. I haven't been able to motivate myself. And I think to myself, I'm a big favorite to make $30,000 a week, and I can't get myself motivated to show up. But anyway, to go to this lineup, I predicted that it would be the tightest lineup in history. All these great players. And it was, because all the great players have figured out that, you know what, you have to play poker tight. You have to play tight.
Right.
And so,
yeah, it's like Premier League. We both played. You played numerous Premier Leagues. I think the one I played, the last one you were supposed to, and you didn't make it to Montreal, and someone filled in for you last minute. But I mean, I was playing super. It's like sit and go strategy, playing very tight in that, and it is. I mean, it's sort of the right way to play, especially in that format. And people are. It's not necessarily what people want to see. They want to see 3-betting, 4-betting, crazy stuff. They want to see wild plays and aggressive maneuvers, but.
It was a slow start for Poker After Dark, but I will tell you this: the conversation was amazing, and there were some interesting pots. Now I heard that, and I think they judge a show they film 8 hours and they judge how many high stakes poker shows we get out of it. Now, if it's Poker After Dark, they'll use all of it because they like the conversations. But when it comes to high stakes poker, they only got 1 episode from Tuesday. Now I heard Wednesday they got 5 episodes where everybody went crazy.
Wow.
A new player lit $250,000 on fire.
Wow.
But I mean, so I think that, the rest of the week, the games were much better. And I played with Dwan again and Ivy again, Friday and Saturday. And Dwan was back to playing 40% of the hands. And, and then the last day, Rick hopped into the game.
Yep.
Rick Solomon.
Always good.
And I said this, and I'll say it again. There's only about 3 people in the whole world that can play 30-40% of the hands in no limit and turn a healthy profit. And I want to play against those 3 every day personally because I know how to play them. But Tom Dwan and Rick Solomon are 2 of those guys. They can play a ton of hands and win all the money.
Right.
And Tom was on fire. Now, I mean, I think he ran really, really, really good, but he was on fire Friday and Saturday. He was playing all the hands, and I was frustrated. For the week, I won money. Okay, I'd won 20. I'd won 25 out of 26 cash games I'd filmed, and this week I had 2 losing sessions. But at the end, I won money. I won money for the week, but I wanted to have more hands, especially against Tom, because he was playing so many hands, and that's the style that I crush. Usually, my 10s are going to crush the 4-6 suited. And usually for some real money. Right.
Nice. So it was fun though. It was great. The show's back. Good footage, good coverage. That'll come out. And are you pretty? Is that going to be? I actually had a question about this. Are they the feud and the duel? You guys using high profile names? You've been a part of it. the one with Antonio. The NBC Heads Up was always so fun to watch. It was a 25K buy-in. What do you think about Poker Go? And now like people are kind of back in the area. Like it's sort of like it was successful. You're seeing how much engagement viewership this is getting. Do you think
I get pissed off at people that slam Poker Go. They say, "Oh my God, I paid $10 a month, and now they showed high stakes duel on some other platforms for free." And I'm like, Kerry Katz has invested like $25 million of his own money into Poker Go.
Right.
All these commentators are getting paid, and it's just not easy to put on to give this amazing content to poker players. And then people complain. If you want to support poker, I think the best way is to watch Poker Go. I do get paid from Poker Go too. But if I wasn't getting paid, I would say we need to support Poker Go. It's $10 a month, and you have a library. You can watch all of the World Series of Poker, all of the stuff in history. It's like Netflix. There's literally thousands of hours of poker content.
Yeah, it's amazing.
On Poker Go.
Really
we have new shows coming. We have high stakes poker coming. We filmed 5 days of that, and to watch Tom Dwan, it's kind of a beautiful thing. I give him credit. And Rick Solomon, and they're at the same table at the same time. It's fun. Those guys are fun, man. And so, you're going to be able to watch all these episodes starting December 16th. You're going to be able to watch all these Poker After Darks. They're cut back into episode forms. They're not on television, only on Poker Go. Maybe in 6 months they'll be released on television. I don't know. But I just wish that people were behind Poker Go. And you know what? It's probably one of those things where 98% of the people are behind Poker Go and love it. And the 2%'s whining about something or another. Right.
Well, people can find, you can complain about anything if it's not perfect, but it's great. That's also nice. They put on YouTube and they showed that, so it's free and some of the stuff. It also gets some advertising that people then love it and they go and check it out. All right. Well, Phil, the major things we covered, your duel, Daniel Doug, that's big news. The election is going on. That's big. Poker After Dark. That's big. I want to take questions. I want to get there's a lot of them. So I want to get some of those. And also I just want to touch on some business stuff that we have though coming up. So I want to just look a couple things that we're involved with.
Yay.
We're on 10 plus businesses. We confirmed 10. I think it's 12 pending, maybe 2 more that we're both.
Let's go through them individually.
Okay.
I'm in Luxon.
Yes. That's
love
maybe the
that
most
company.
Love that.
And I hear they're doing really, really good.
Crushing.
But you see the updates. I don't.
Yeah.
But I believed in Rob Young because he's a genius.
Correct.
Traveleye is about to relaunch. I use Traveleye all the time, JG, until they took it down a few months ago. I used it all the time. I couldn't believe it.
It's a great product, and I hope we don't get in trouble. The launch date is coming officially for the revamp. It was Travel Smarter, Traveleye. Obviously, Eric Damier behind it. If you guys know Earth Picks on Instagram, it's like 14 million plus. Him and MySpace Tom. But
bro, I would go to Miami and I'd Google 4-star hotel or 5-star hotel, and I saw prices you couldn't see anywhere else. And I'd book it, and I'd just be I remember my wife and I took the kids to Minneapolis. I booked 3 rooms for 7 days for like $1,800 at a really nice hotel.
Yeah.
And so, Traveleye, you have to pay $10 a month to join. But
it's actually 5 now. It's 5 a month, and it's coming back, and it's I think it's going to be in the next 2 weeks officially launched. So kind of a spoiler, but whatever. It's good. We're letting you guys know, and it is Phil and I are involved, and it's going to be $5 a month now, which is even nicer. And it's literally one trip. It's like guaranteed. If you do one trip in a year, you're gonna basically just print off of it. So that is an exciting one. This one. You got me in though. We go back and forth. Some are mutual.
You got me in Traveleye.
Yes.
And then let's talk Prize Picks quickly, because this is relevant for all the people that are watching who can't make bets in their state. We're in 60% of the states. You can make parlay bets in 60% of the states with this. It's crazy. You can bet golf, football, basketball. Prize Picks is a monster, man. And it's unbelievable that you can just bet in California. I can make parlay picks. I don't think they like it when I use the word bet. I can make parlay picks and put money on those picks. Like tonight, I'll bet this game. I'll bet Aaron Rodgers is going to have a good game. So I'll bet over on him.
Give me something.
see
Give me
who else
another
we have
play,
there.
Phil. Who we got? I'll make a play while we're here.
Okay, where's the there is Devontae Adams. I think he's going over. Okay, now we got to pick an under.
Yeah,
Who do
that's
we
how.
like
So
on under?
let me just
We
explain
need
how
one
this is
more.
even legal. You cannot have two players on the same team without picking another. You have to make one over, one under at least, and so that's how it's legal. If you do two on the same team, only it's considered not. If you do, so you could do 2, 3, or 4 players. So you could do one more. We'd have to do one more and do an under, and from another team actually.
Okay, let's go under on Mason Crosby.
Where's he?
And the only reason why is I don't think they're going to be kicking much.
Is he
See him
there?
over there?
Okay. You want to go
Yeah.
under? We have to do another team then. We have to do a 4. You want to do a 4 or 3 game?
Yeah, let's do 4.
Okay. Oh man, Phil, you want to really go for it? That's hard. 4 is hard. Okay.
It's hard to hit.
But we're feeling lucky.
Let's
We're
go
running
over on Robbie Gould.
Robbie Gould over. Okay.
Because they will kick a lot tonight.
All right, we'll go over.
Okay, place your bet. $50 is enough.
I actually have a freebie. So a 14 for a free 50, Phil. It looks like I got some stuff going on. So I'm gonna
Fire. Let's see what it pays.
You have to use cannot contain QB wide receiver, QB tight end, or QB SB combinations.
Okay, let's move on from Prize Picks. The point is,
I'm gonna make a bet afterward.
It's pretty
though.
cool. You can make bets very quickly on that site.
Yes.
And I guess we didn't do it right, but let's go to the next. Let's go to the next company.
Yeah, let's get through these because we got a lot of questions. So that's so we got Prize Picks, Stake Kings and U Stake we covered. Endgame Talent.
Stake Kings and U Stake. I've made the customers at Stake King at U Stake, $150,000. So I mean, that's not exact. I mean, maybe it's 140, but I don't know. I'd bet a lot of money it's over 150. Show us the next list there, JG.
All right, we got Endgame Talent.
Endgame Talent is crushing it. I mean, they're going to be raising between 70 and 120 million. Go to Clash. We are crushing it with Clash. We're winning all kinds of esports contests. We have the best Brawl Stars team in the world.
I'm excited about this. This was one of my more recent just closings to come on. So
I brought you into Clash.
Yes, I'll give you. That's yours. We'll put that in your column. We're kind of going pound for pound, but you get that one. What else? Lasso. I think I brought you Lasso.
You brought me to Lasso. What a pick Lasso is. My God. Lasso.
Crushing.
Do you know who wears our socks every single day?
Harden.
Cam Newton.
Dude,
I'm not talking about for every game. Cam Newton wears the Lasso socks every single day. If you go to Cam Newton,
they can't prevent COVID, but it can do a lot. I mean, but yes, they are great socks. I do wear them as well.
Go to Cam Newton's Instagram and you'll see him jump. Not now.
I won't. Yeah.
Well, if you want to, go to it now. But there's a video of him jumping into don't go now. It's going to be too hard probably. But
we'll just show yours. We'll go. You can go to Cam on your own, guys, if you're watching.
But Cam Newton's jumping into a swimming pool. He's wearing a suit and he's wearing Lasso gear socks. James Harden wears our socks for every game. And so Lasso gear, I just saw an update. We're raising $1.5 million. I think we raised the first 900,000 already. That is really exciting. The best compression socks in the world. They help healthcare workers. They help airline employees. I mean, they're just unbelievable. I've never had socks, JG, that I can actually put all the way up near my knee and that hold. It's just my calves have always made them go down. Well,
no, they're nice.
I
it's hard to be so hyped up about socks, but legitimately they're nice socks. We'll say that. I love them.
Best socks ever made.
It's true.
I've given them to my NBA friends who use them. Use them to train. But I mean, I was I've got a name drop for you. I was hiking in the Galapagos Islands. Woo-hoo-hoo.
There you go.
Name drop. And I had the socks on all the way up to the knee. And we hiked for 8 hours. They never moved a quarter of an inch. So the Lasso gear is really impressive.
You said name drop. You didn't drop the name, or you're not going to name the drop.
Gallapagos Islands, man.
Oh, I thought you were going to say the athlete name. You were wearing them in
Galapagos Islands.
I got you. That is an exotic. That is a nice location, I got to say. So yeah, that counts. All right, B Spot. I think we actually separately came into this at different times and didn't know, but we happen to be on this together, which is also they're making big moves and that's an interesting business as well.
B Spot.
The first legalized slots tied to the outcome of horse racing, which is pretty ridiculously
amazing.
Brilliant.
They're really crushing it. They're liable to be sold for $700 million.
Yeah, they're
Cash
shopping.
Live. I've been going once a week to the Cash Live because, I mean, for the folks at home, you download this app, and at say 5 p.m. they have a poker tournament with 100,000 people. It's over in 20 minutes.
Yeah,
it's great.
It's swipe left, swipe right. You're all in. You make a decision. It's pretty.
You got to be all in. Like, I think in the final format, you're only going to have one fold. You're going to have to be all in. You probably have to win 20 all-ins in a row to win the tournament with 20,000 people. And but it's kind of fun.
And it's free, which is not bad. When it's sort of like HQ trivia, you know, you're doing something kind of cool, fun, fast, and it's free, which is always.
And then the last one we'll cover is Share My Pair, which I post. I post hands all the time. Hands from High Stakes Poker, hands from Heads Up, hands that I play with my friends. I posted some hands when I was playing in Lake Geneva, Wisconsin in a high stakes game. I posted one that my son won. All right, JG, that's enough. Cool. Let's go to the questions.
That's, guys, we covered. That's what we got going on. That's Phil and I are, like I said, I think 10 plus, but we're involved. We got some sweats, Phil. It's good to have action going. Let's take some questions because, again, guys, I have had this is our second podcast. So if you guys want to know more about Phil and his career and sort of the journey, you can go back. I think it was, this was about a year ago. There it is, episode number 12. Phil Hellmuth, you can watch. We covered a lot there as well. So if you guys want to go ahead and check that out. And let's see, Phil, let's take some questions. You ready?
Yeah.
Let's knock them down. I know you got some wifey time. I think you're going to dinner. I don't know what time it is there. Afternoon, maybe a lunch. So let's get it, guys. On Twitter, go there, pin tweet.
The Packers are playing at 5:15. That's what I got.
Oh shit! All right, yeah. So that's exciting. That's a big one.
Still got 2.5 hours, but I mean, I'm looking forward to the Pack, baby.
I love it. It's an exciting game, no doubt. All right, so here we go, guys. We are going to take the questions. We're going to kind of run through them. You still have time to get them in. Let's just kind of knock it out. Phil, just tell me when a few more, and we'll wind down. But we got a bunch. So let's start right at the top. It's a long question. How would you compare starting to play poker now to when you started? Do you think this is harder or softer with live and online? Also, countless training sites and information to help people, or is there no comparison? I wish you nothing but the best. Craig Leonard 80 asking, what would you say about when you started and now?
Craig Leonard 80, I'd say it's softer now because there's more opportunity. So I think you can from your own living room, if you're a talented poker player, you can start making money right away. In the U.S., okay, there's still some issues. I mean, like, if you have access to a site and if you feel comfortable playing on a site, then you can start making money right away. That's what I will say. I've been playing with my friends I have no piece of this app at Poker RRR2, but you have to be invited to a game, and we have 3 or 4 games. So like I said, I made a lot of money, and then about August 1st, I just stopped playing. I think I was a little burnt out, but I think it's easier now. I think you can learn a lot. I think that generally speaking, people still don't play patiently enough, and that creates some opportunity for people to make some money.
For sure. And give me a bit about online versus live. Like how much softer or different do you think is someone starting if they go and play a live casino versus playing live online?
I mean, if I were just starting, I would focus on online stuff. I would find a $1, $2 game where I could buy in for $100. And the action's still pretty good at those games. I think the 5-10 games have gotten tougher and tougher, JG. Right. But even still, you have, and the funny thing is, to the people watching this, is sometimes the best games are like the $1, $2 games or the biggest games on the site. And so because the biggest games on the site have some people, that whales, you would call them. Yeah. And so those games are really, really good. And so it's kind of stunning that I found high stakes poker when I was 23 years old. And I just couldn't believe how juicy and how good those games were. And yet, if I wanted to play 50 and 100 limit back then, they were tough as nails. But if I played 2-4 or 3-6, the games were great. So there's that weird thing that the higher you get, sometimes the easier the games are.
It is interesting. There's like little sweet spots and different. It doesn't necessarily mean higher or lower is. And
JG, one quick concept for those at home. I mean, I think of poker as a pyramid. Imagine a pyramid of 4, and when you're at the top of the pyramid, money's being brought up. So that means someone who's beating a 1-2 game plays 5-10. They dump off their money, and then they go to the next level. And people are dumping off money at every level, trying to get to the top. And when you get to the very top, all the money flows upward. So if you can become great at poker, you're going to make a fortune.
True. It's very true. There's a lot of money that comes in influx at different times. Someone asked, is Tony G the most annoying person? This is a name, Walking Duck, Amigo Taka. Is Tony G the most annoying person you ever played with? By the way, can't wait for this podcast. So what do you say about, give me just your thoughts on Tony G? Because you guys have you got a very interesting relationship at the tables too. One of the most, I'd say it's maybe the most well-documented and known interaction in sort of a battle over the years. Maybe the most fun to watch, the most animated. So what is that? What does Tony G mean to you in your battle with him?
Yeah, I mean, Tony G. So, I was very disappointed when we played a cash game, and he told me he didn't look at his whole cards. I had a hand I had to go with anyway. I mean, I think they had the straddle and double straddle on. It was like 1,600 to go, and I had ace jack, and I had like 20,000 left, so I had to get it in. But I mean, like he had ace king suited, claimed he didn't look at his whole cards. And then at that point, I was very disappointed in him. And then I decided to forgive him. About 3 years ago, when I sent out some nice tweets for him, and I went out on my way to be nice to him and to get rid of all of that animosity and get rid of all that BS. And he responded. He liked it. I said, oh, you won. I think it was 3 years ago. He won a tournament at the Aria, a high roller. And I sent out a picture of him saying, congratulations. And, I'm all about mending fences. I'm all about having no one dislike me. And I'm all about not disliking anyone else. So whenever I can, wherever I can, I forgive. Speaking in my book, Positivity, that's my favorite chapter is forgiveness. And so so in Tony G's case, I've forgiven him and I'm fine with him. I just did another event today. JG, they paid me like $10,000 to do this. Are you paying me anything?
For the podcast?
Yeah.
Let's just our business together.
No, you're not. Let's anyway. So the book, I was talking about my book Positivity, and I was talking to a bunch of salespeople, and I said, hey, one thing I love about my book is that helps every single person. It's just 8 life tips. That's my book, 8 life tips. And so the one chapter that helps everybody, that they always come to me later and say, thanks, Phil, you changed my life. Write down your 2020 goals. Write down your yearly goals and put them on a nice list and tape them to your bathroom mirror. And people say to me, wow, I hit my number 1 and my number 2 goal. Thanks, Phil. And so it's amazing to me how many people are happy and come and talk about, how I changed their life just with that one chapter.
It's a great book. I have it. It's very, like you said, it's simple, straightforward, a quick read. And it just kind of, it's one of those things that just is nice to look at and get a reminder.
Tony Robbins. I mean, I'll tell you what, JG, Tony Robbins gave me an amazing jacket blurb on the back, as did Sheryl Sandberg. That's amazing to me. Yeah, there it is. And so, I mean, Tony Robbins was telling people to buy my book, Positivity, in his classes. Buy Phil Hellmuth's book. That's was incredible. Amazing. Do you know how when I found that out, I was on the East Coast and someone said, stay another 20 minutes because my girlfriend's excited to meet you. And I was just like, oh my God, I just want to go to bed. But I hung out because I'm a nice guy for the 20 minutes. And she came and I was so happy I stayed the extra 20 minutes, something I wouldn't normally do because I was tired and I'd been playing all day. And she said, I was in Tony Robbins' class last weekend, and he told us to buy your book, Phil. I really wanted to meet you, and I'm really impressed. And I was like, yes, Tony Robbins telling people to buy my book.
That is a nice endorsement. Like that's one of the gurus right there for sure.
Space,
Which bracelet is the most valuable? You have 15. You give them away to family members, friends, and others. And which one is it? The first, of course, or what is it? What's the answer for the most one?
I mean, I kept the 1989 bracelet. I gave the 2012 main event bracelet, which is way up there on the list, to Chamath Palihapitiya, my best friend. And I've given the rest away. My parents, everybody in my family has one. I gave one to my brothers and sisters. There's 5. My parents, there's 4 of them, and my parents make 6, my wife and my kids. And so once I hit all the family, I started giving bracelets away to friends. I gave one to Dave Goldberg after he died. He died in May of 2015. He's married to Sheryl Sandberg, who's, a lot more famous than I am. But I wanted to give that in his memory to Sheryl and the kids, and did that. And, my next bracelet goes to Sky Dayton, and then David Sachs, and then Rick Thompson. I have a list And so I give them all away. The only one I kept was the 1989 main event. They all mean something to me.
You know? Right. And you have a goal, I believe, is it, I forget the number, 25 or
24.
How many do you want?
15.
You want 15 right now. And what's the number you'll be, okay, I did it. Like 15.
Well, I wanted 24, and then I saw Phil Ivey say he was going to win 30. And I thought, you know what? I reserve the right to win 30, but I want to get to 24 first, obviously.
24. That's a big number, but hey, you know, I wouldn't bet against you. That's for sure.
Come on, man. I have 15 and just finished second, third, fifth, sixth. That's just in the last 2019.
Yes, that's true. Yeah, I mean, Phil, like I said, it doesn't sound that crazy, actually. Your favorite burger at the poker table? What's your favorite food? What's your go-to meal at the poker table? What do you order, Arya? What's your go? Like you just
my go-to meal is usually after a poker tournament at the World Series of Poker. I'll order salmon, grilled salmon, and I'll order it with a side of ranch dressing, and usually a bunch of roasted mushrooms and steamed vegetables. And I'll kind of put the ranch dressing on top of the salmon. That has a really tangy, nice flavor for me. And I feel like that's a lucky meal for me. Yeah. It's weird how sometimes I'll do that 20 days at the Aria. I'll eat that exact meal. I used to eat a lot more salmon. But yeah, that's kind of my go-to meal. As far as burgers go, I like a cheeseburger with cheddar. I want some avocado on there, tomatoes, onions, ketchup and mustard.
Very nice. Now, you mentioned about Positivity, the book. You actually said the Antonio hand, ace 10 to ace 3. You had a feeling you weren't going to win, maybe, or you could count the chips out. Talk to me a bit about the mental side of poker, dealing with so many, and all in, there's online, there's a lot more confrontations during the day. It's a very different game because when you're playing live tournament, you may not be in all in for the day one of a tournament often, or or for days of a tournament. Whereas online, you're playing 6, 8, 10 tables sometimes, or you're hitting the constant beats, constant collisions, ace, king, ace, queen, and flips and this and that. How do you mentally deal with all-in situations, and what's sort of your routine to like just be relaxed and with the outcome, and how much do you believe in the mental side of that and being able to prepare and deal with beats?
Dude, you're asking the poker brat how he deals with bad beats.
Yes,
I mean, that's like asking John McEnroe how
we gotta know. This is important. That's a great question. I would love to hear McEnroe answer as well.
Slam your racket down.
Right. Or have you worked on this? Because you have been known as a poker brat, but you are, I mean, if I would say Phil 2.0, I mean, in the last, years, you seem like you've gathered yourself, collected yourself, and have a little different outlook and approach on things, how you do stuff.
Yeah. There was a Phil 2.0, and I think it was 07, where I just didn't lose it for the whole month, not until the main event. And then that disappeared in 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. There are those years where I kind of come in calmer. Usually it's all for naught in the end. But I will tell you this: you can't afford to tilt when there's 30 players left in a tournament. Yeah, sure, I'm going to have the aces, and the amateur's going to have the jacks because they can't fold jacks, and they're going to just try to give me their money, and they hit a jack. What is 17% of the time they win that pot, and then that's very tilting. And so there is a progression that I use that works for me when I'm aware enough to use it. And if it's 2 a.m, I'm not going to be aware enough. I'm just going to be like, God damn it, which everybody loves that routine anyway. But what I do is it's very basic. I just count my chips. Phil, you have 32,000 left. Phil, the blinds are 1 in 2,000. Phil, you have 16 big blinds. After inputting 3 or 4 data points like that, my mind is starting to just realize that's in the past, even though it's 10 seconds ago.
It's a puzzle. It's a new game, new situation.
That's when I'm at my best, and I can't, but there's also times where I think me going, God damn it, these bad beats like this. I think it also, people are like, Phil's unstable right now. I'm not going to mess with them right now. And then when I come in raising, it seems like they all fold. Sometimes that can be a tactic that I use to my advantage. That backfired in 03, 04, 05, where all the kids thought, or 04, 05, 04, 06, 07, 08, where they were all playing fast and like, Phil's on tilt, we're just going to move in on them. But generally speaking, they see how tight I play, and then when I get all emotional and race the next hand, I've been able to get away with. So I mean, but I'd like to say that's a tactic, but that's just me losing it, and me having too much passion for the game I love.
Well, actually, I just thought something we need to cover, because you have been, before we dive back in the question, SPACs. You've had 3 major SPACs going on. Can you tell me what a SPAC is and what you are involved with in that now, being sort of, this is a new thing, or it's gotten a lot of media attention with DraftKings and other things, and you've been at the center of a very big one, as among others. So tell me a little about SPACs and what that is for you.
So my best friend is Chamath Palihapitiya, and he's considered right now, I would call him the king of SPACs. His first SPAC, he raised $900 million. He went to Wall Street. He raised $900 million. And he wasn't sure what he was going to use it for. You're not allowed to have a plan on the way in. He said, trust me, it's $10 a share. You can buy if you want. But if you don't like the company it brings in, or the stock's at 8, you can still sell at 10. You can always get out until the deal's done. And so he, 18 months passed, and people said, man, he's going to fail, because $10 million was put up in sponsor money that just disappears. They all thought he'd fail. Well, he brought in Richard Branson and Virgin Galactic, and then that stock went from 10 to 35. It was pretty cool. And you can see under public record how much money he made. A fortune. And then we're talking about hundreds of millions, billions of dollars. It's all public record, but I don't know the amount, but.
Right.
But I, or if I do know, I'm not going to say it. And then he did another SPAC and another SPAC. Well, his second SPAC they announced last month, called a company called Open Door. And then, Open Door is a great company, and his stock went from 10 to 25. I haven't checked it in the last week. I bought a little bit of his stock because I believe in Chamath. And so now we did our own SPAC. And so it's trading on the New York Stock Exchange at DMYT right now. And we went out, and I was talking to the CEO, Greg Carlin, on the phone of Rush Street Interactive. Yeah, there it is. And I was talking to the CEO of Rush Street Interactive, and he said, hey, we're thinking about going in a SPAC. And I'm like, I have a SPAC, and my best friend just launched 2 SPACs. He's like, connect me. So I connected him with Niccolo De Masi, my guy, and the next thing you know, they decided to take that company out public. But I'm the one that brought the deal in. So both companies rewarded me. So I basically, with that reward, it's like I finished 3rd in the main event. Yeah, it was a good, but I mean, if you're going to bring in a company to a SPAC, and right now they're public for about $2.1 billion. They're floating at about $2 billion right now. That's big money. It's easy to compensate somebody, 3rd place in the main event when you have a $2 billion deal. Then we did our second SPAC, DMYD. And last week we announced, that's floating on the stock market. You can look that up, JG, show the folks. DMYD is in Don.
Let me do it right now. Okay.
And then that one, we brought in a company last week called Genius Sports. So if you click on the news, you would see that Genius Sports was the company we brought in there to float at around $1.5 billion. So right now it's floating at, 1.5 billion. And then we launched our 3rd SPAC, I believe tomorrow or the next day. We filed for it so I can talk about it. And our 3rd SPAC is going to come out in the next day or 2. And so how does this benefit me? Well, I put in money called sponsor money. And that sponsor money, they'll either double it or triple it or 6x at the moment that you invest, but you can lose it all.
Right.
So when I brought the company into the first one, I was not only protecting the 300,000 that I put in there, it was doubled or tripled or quadrupled, but also, so, the SPAC things are a lot of fun. Now everybody's doing it. We just launched our 3rd SPAC, but I'm having a lot of fun and making a lot of money. Now that's late stage companies, JG. That's fun stuff, and a lot of the people couldn't really follow exactly what I said. That's okay. I'm also doing a lot of the early stage stuff. Some of those companies we showed earlier, I'm on 10 different advisory boards now. So that's been a lot of fun for me. And I tell each advisor, hey, I can give you 10 hours a year. But in every company I've been involved with JG, 30 different companies, I've added more value than they could have imagined.
For sure.
And so it's easy for a founder to give Phil Hellmuth 2% of his company. And when that company is worth 300 million, all of a sudden my 2 points is 6 million.
Well, no, I mean, I think that's also why both, like you said, you gave me a very nice comment, I think, on one of my Twitch shows, saying you have two rules. You basically, if you see, you look for advisory shares, and then you say, I'm going to call JG. And you know, I think I feel the same way about you. I know you are.
That is not an exaggeration, by the way. That's that compliment. When the minute that I finish a deal, 9 out of 10 times the first phone call is to you. You brought me into some amazing deals. And I brought you into some pretty cool stuff too. You're the first person I call. Why is that? Well, yes, we have 11 different companies that we own a piece of together. They all seem to be flourishing. We've lost 1 or 2 along the way. It's not perfect, but they all seem to be flourishing. But what happens when I bring you this company is you raise money for them, non-VC money. That's very powerful. So I call you and I say, hey, check out Prize Picks. And you're like, Phil, I love this. Phil, and I'll say, check out Clash. You bring it to your brother-in-law, who's a business genius. And between the two of you, you might put $1 million in, or you might then send it to Bill Perkins after you've invested, or Antonio Esfandiari, or Phil Locke. So you're very valuable for me, not only in kind of rubber stamping a deal, which the minute you invest behind me, I'm like, oh, I feel even better about this deal. Right. But then you also connect with the founders and help them raise money, which is non-VC money. It's very valuable. And I'll be able to help them with VC money. Well, most of these early guys aren't quite ready for that. So in a year or two, a lot of these companies will be knocking on my door saying, connect me with Bill Gurley, you know, or Chamath or David Sachs. And I'll press a button and connect them. And we'll be able to pitch some VCs with some of these powerful companies.
For sure. We're a dangerous duo, Phil. I like it. I think we're over-under is probably 20, 24, 25, just like your bracelets. That's what we're going for business-wise. We're young, we're hungry, and we're ready to rock.
JG, of your generation, it's you and Alan Keating is now starting to pursue a similar path to you. You're the leader for your whole generation as far as poker investing. And I don't know how you do it, honestly, because I've talked about you to my friends. You work. I don't know if you sleep 2 hours a night or what the hell is going on with you.
No, I work. Well, I mean, I'll say this: the podcast is a big undertaking. Twitch is a big undertaking. I got a 1.5-year-old, but my wife's amazing. Just similar to your wife, very supportive. Knows there's times of the year, times where it's press go time, and I got to kind of dial in. And then there's family time, and you know, I like to be present in whatever I'm doing. But for sure, I mean, I'm pushing hard, and I appreciate the kind words, Phil. But this is your podcast. I want to talk about Phil Hellmuth. We want to answer the questions and dive a few more. So I know you got to get going here soon. Let's take a few more. Or you cut me off. I'm not going to cut you off, Phil. So you just say, let's take 1 or 2 more.
We'll do 2 or 3 more questions. I did hear my wife sigh.
Yep. That's happy wife, happy life. We know that, Phil. This is
happy wife, happy life.
It's very true.
I've been married 30 years, man. And I'm still crazy in love. I mean, it's amazing.
Congrats. And yeah, I mean, that's an amazing thing. And I love that your wife goes to Burning Man. I've seen her at Burning Man. I've been at Burning Man. That's where I met my wife. I always like
she probably doesn't want you to talk about that. Next subject.
We'll cut that out. We'll edit that out. Maybe she just flies by. It doesn't necessarily go in there. Fair enough. All right. People want to know about your COVID. How has your COVID been? Personally, does it change much of your day-to-day? You know, you're a people person. Now there's things are kind of getting a little back to normal, at least poker-wise. How is, you know, March until August for you, July? Like, how was that time period, and what were you doing mostly during COVID?
So I skipped in February. I skipped the LAPC for COVID, and they all laughed at me, and I thought they have no idea what's coming. You know, Matt Savage made fun of me. They all made fun of me, and I just thought, these guys. In about 3 weeks, they're going to have to apologize for laughing at me. But I didn't want to tell them that because they'd argue and say, no, you're wrong. But the data that we had on my text stream from my friends, who were really the smartest people in the world, the most successful people in the world, and they own biotech companies. So we could see the data early. And so I didn't even go to the LAPC, which was probably February 25th. I also skipped the Bay 101, which was like March 8th. And by the way, it's 20 minutes from my house. I did not want to do that. I did fly to LA for Draymond Green's surprise 30th birthday party, but I went with a bunch of guys that had been isolating. We took a private jet down, had dinner, went to the party, and took a private jet back. So I was gone. Even then, I was a little nervous, and my wife was a little nervous. But that was it. And then after that, I mean, literally for 3 months, I completely isolated all of March, April. I mean, I was not 3 blocks from my house. One time I walked 3 blocks from my house. And other than that, I never left my house. It was crazy. In May, some of my friends wanted to fly down to Cabo. One of my friends said, "Hey, there's no virus in Cabo right now. I've been down here 3 months, and I really want you to come." So he sent me his jet. So I'm like, so I invited a couple of my other friends, and we hopped on the jet and went down there for like 4 days. My wife was pretty nervous, although it was private jet. We played some poker in person in Cabo. No one in that game had been there for less than a month, and they trusted that we'd been isolating too. So it was like 3 days in Cabo, came back, and went right back to isolating again. My wife was like, "I want you to leave your clothing in the laundry room. I want you to go straight to the shower," even though it was a private jet. And, those were all reasonable precautions. We all thought the death rate was much higher than it was. Actually, my group knew how low it was from the start, but there was a lot of data suggesting that it was higher than even my group thought. And so, a lot of isolation. I will say that I started playing online poker 6 days a week. I had not played any online poker since 2011, since the online industry tanked. Zero online poker. And I started playing, 6 days a week in 2 different games, and immediately won 400,000 or 500,000 right away. Things were going great. And then, but I didn't do any, again, from, May 15th until July 1st, I don't think I left the house.
Right.
Maybe one time I finally went to a friend's house because he knew that I'd been isolating and he'd been isolating, and my wife and I went there. And I gave my best friend a hug, and my wife was like, "I don't know if you can do that." And his girlfriend's like, "I don't know if I can do that." And we're like, "Well, we're here having dinner."
It's actually a bit awkward now, isn't it? Like when you interact with people, like it's like, do you handshake, do you hug, do you not hug? Like, is it, you kind of want to show, but you don't know how they feel. And then you actually kind of don't want to just because like whatever. So it's almost like awkward. And there's that awkward hand bump with a guy, like is it a handshake or a fist pound? And it's already, can be awkward. So it's going to be interesting to see over the next year or two.
Elbow bump, if you have like a sleeve on, that's
exactly. So it's a bit crazy. I do want to say,
Alan, you hit the nail on the head there with that one.
Yes, Alan Keating. I meant, you mentioned the name. That's actually, I was one of the first people I met in poker. We're both from Michigan, and we used to actually we're Phelps, Keating, my other friend Ryan, Rapaski, some guys. We all met at that same time in Windsor, in Canada. I think when we were like 18, 19. But yeah, Keating's definitely, he's a sharp guy. He's plays big games, and he's a fun guy and a sharp guy. Also, Matt Seidman is in the chat. He was saying hello. I don't know if you remember Matt. You remember Matt Seidman
Yes.
and Silverman? Those guys. So they were checking, and they said to say hi to you as well. So
tell them hello. Yeah.
I'll give them.
I mean, dude, people don't know that you and I went to the Olympics together in 2016.
We've had the Olympics that we
you're Michael Phelps' best friend.
We lived together for 7 years during 08 to 15.
2012 we went.
Yes, that was in London, London Olympics. You treated me to the opening ceremonies. That was a ridiculous gift from you. I'll never forget that. It's funny because I've been to the 12. I went to the 12, 16 Olympics and 08. No, I'm sorry. 08 in Beijing, 12 London, 16 Rio. I didn't go to the opening ceremony to any besides you, and you got a hell of a ticket. So that was a great opening ceremony and a great memory. London was a lot of fun for sure.
Well, you didn't have as much money then. It was 2012, and I remember it was the day before, and I was thinking, and we weren't going to the opening ceremony. I'm like, well, what am I thinking? We have to go to the opening ceremony. I found some tickets. I was less than $4,000.
They were expensive, and it's in pounds, man. Pounds is tough. But
I'm like, what did I fly over here for? Come on, man.
Yeah.
And that was pretty cool. The opening ceremony in London. I remember we were drinking beer. I'm not a huge beer drinker, but I'm like, all right, let's have some beers.
Yeah, Seidman, Silverman were there as well, and also Io. Shout out to our friend, one of my very, very close friends, Io. We stayed at his house for part of it. We stayed in a hotel for.
I really liked his family.
Oh yeah,
nice.
great guy. He actually just had another baby. They got 2 kids and living back in London. So yeah, good memories, good times. People checking in, keeping in touch. We've known each other for at least 10 years. Then I guess like 09, maybe like
yeah.
Oh
yeah, I remember that you guys were going to be partying with Michael on the River Thames on a boat.
Yep.
And too often you've invited me to parties, and too often I haven't showed up. And if I could go back in time, I'd probably be a little more active. I just thought, all right, I'm going to get back to my wife and kids. But I knew if I stayed another 4 days, that we'd be all partying together on the boat on the River Thames, and I knew, and it would be really fun to congratulate Mike. I remember, that was the time where he had been really struggling with motivation, and it was like, hey, I mean, the poor guy's been training his whole life, and the Olympics are coming up, and he missed some workouts, and still crushed. And I really wanted to be there. That's why in 2016, I flew to Mike's house in Phoenix and hung out with him all weekend at his place. His wife was amazing.
Yeah.
And I had a really good time. And the reason I did that, I'd been looking to visit him for years. We finally got it done. I went to his training sessions. Man, he was working so hard for the 16 Olympics, so hard.
Yeah.
And to watch him swim for 3.5 hours, I remember I went to breakfast in the middle of him swimming. And then he went straight to the gym after that, and just lifted for another 1.5 hours, 2 hours. Now it's like 2 PM, and I'm like, I'd set up a poker game for him, and I'm like, what time do you want to play? And we said, all right, we'll show up at 5. We're leaving at 7 PM. I told everybody, no, he said, we're going to be there at 5, but we're going to probably leave by 6. He just wanted to stop it and play. And I remember, this was, 4 months before the Olympics, and we left at 6. 6 a.m.
Right.
And I remember the whole night passing, and Mike wasn't drinking, and I was barely drinking. We're just having fun. And I looked over at him at 3 a.m. and I thought, am I supposed to drag him out? Like, right. I mean, here's the guy that's going to win all the Olympic gold medals. Am I supposed to drag him out of the poker game? And he was laughing and straddling and having fun.
Oh, yeah.
And live. He was so happy. And I thought, I don't think I'm supposed to drag him out.
It's a tough one. It's tough because exactly this is his element. He loves poker, and he's a social guy. He loves to just kind of hang out, and it is it's a very tricky spot. You want to make sure you're not like detriment to what he's doing, but also it's important to be happy and have fun and change things up a little bit. So yeah, I think that's probably was the right. I
remember 4 a.m. came along, and I'm like, hey, are you okay? Are you all right? I mean, you want to? He's like, oh no, it's great. And then
my wife's gonna be thrilled that I said 6 p.m. and it's 6 a.m. Yeah.
We were staying from 5 until 6. All right. 5 till 6 a.m.
Yeah. Hey, you didn't specify. Maybe you didn't specify the
I remember we were up by noon or something, and we were at a local. We weren't drinking, but we were at a bar. Maybe I had 1 beer, but he wasn't drinking, and we were ordering pizzas, and we were watching. It was the NFL playoffs. And I just remember it was a really fun weekend I had with him, and one of the reasons that I really wanted to go is because I wanted to go to Rio, and I wanted to feel a little more connected before I went to watch him. And then all that stuff about the backwater, remember that, how people weren't going to Rio because they were afraid of getting sick, remember?
Yeah. Oh yeah, it was.
And I bailed because of that. They were talking about, oh, you could end up not being able to have kids. There was all that stuff about, and then I didn't go to Rio for that reason. Another one I bailed on, but I did make it to the 2000 opening.
2012. We crushed it. We had a great. That was all time. Those are great memories. All right, let's take one or two more, maybe last one even, just because we keep getting on tangents, Phil. We're gonna have a third podcast down the road. I think we're good for one a year. I think I got to auto book you. So we're covering here. Let's do okay. I just want to ask, let's close with this. What do you think about solvers and their impact in the game? But also, this is a question here from Adrian. What do you do in terms of, like, we've covered this in the past, but I just want to reiterate, you have a group of guys, Brandon Cantu, Mike Mattisau, you mentioned, two of your close friends, guys that are obviously successful winning players over time.
Mostly now it's just mostly now I've been talking to Mike Mattisau.
Okay.
Just
so,
Mike.
Yeah. So you talk to Mattisau, you could argue again, he's not really like the guy that he's a great winning player. He's made it through the years and whatnot. He's not one of the like GTO wizards type crew. You said people have even laughed sometimes when they say it, but like, what is you watch stuff. I hear you say you watch the duel, you watch these things, you take notes, you're observing what's going on, you know how to win on your own, but what are you doing to work particularly on your game as it changes over the years? Because the game has changed no matter how you look at it, from 2000, 2002, 10, 12, 14, 16. The game's always changing. Population tendencies are changing. What are you doing specifically? Do you do any solver work? Do you do any PO solver? Do you any of that or not? Or just...
No, I mean, I listened to one GTO podcast for 1 hour in my whole life, and I've studied zero solvers. I do think that, it's interesting. Someone said this the other day. One of the great old players said, maybe they've learned all they can learn from solvers, and maybe they're still not close to Phil. Now that's cocky for me to say. I do think that, GTO had a lot of flaws in it to me. I mean, game theory optimal, they act like if you play this perfectly. And, well, I mean, they do some really stupid stuff in there to me. And so, once I figured out, that they were floating, and I say I studied GTO for 1 hour and won the tournament the next day. I don't mean to say that I was using GTO. I wasn't. But it was the first time I realized that they were floating me with nothing every hand on the flop, and I just kept giving up. And then I'm like, well, if they're going to float with nothing every flop, I'm going to bomb every flop, every turn, and every river. And all of a sudden I had a bracelet in my hands. This was 2018. And so, to me, I will watch some of the stuff that they're doing and pay attention to some of the stuff they're doing. But the minute that I see some flaws, I'm like, I don't like this theory. And so, I heard some people say that solvers have helped them. I believe it. But I think that any strategy that you devise that doesn't include an element for reading people is fundamentally flawed. Every single one. If you're not great at reading people, you'll never be the greatest poker player in the world. Sorry, guys. All you guys that can't read people, if you can't read people, you will never be the greatest. You might make millions of dollars. You might do really well in the long run. You might impress a lot of people. You might sell some books. But if you can't sit across the table from someone who can't hide their emotions or their tells and understand that they're weak or strong, or even against a great player, then you'll never be the greatest. So, I think, that, you need to be able to read people. And then that's why, you talk about, the heads up style. I haven't changed my heads up style because I just keep limping in and I just keep winning, Now,
Right.
Once I see somebody else that limps all the time, then I'm going to have to adapt and change.
Right.
I'm ready though, but I come in with an open mind to these matches. I come in when Antonio's going to raise every hand, then I'm going to limp every hand. Now, if I come to somebody that limps every hand, then I might get more raises in and more bluffs. But I try to, design my strategy to beat my opponent at the time, whoever that is.
For sure. Yeah, it's super interesting. I saw a question here as well as we're just wrapping up, but
Last one.
You about the etiquette with Tony G. You said you forgive them on that, and you guys kind of had battle. But I will sort of touch on that point about live games. The last one, and we'll do the retweet giveaway. How do you feel about the etiquette nowadays with people that tank, the slowness of the game? The talking, the. Do
you think that's happening anymore, JG?
What's that?
Do you think it's happening anymore where they tank?
I mean, I don't know. I guess there hasn't been a lot of live poker, to be fair. So I don't really know. But from the TV,
I think they started getting away from taking too much time, but they still do it. They still take too much time, and it's annoying. And these guys are driving out a lot of amateurs. They're driving out a lot of the players that they want to play with, because I talk to these billionaires and I talk to these guys that are making $100 million a year or $20 million a year. And the last thing they want to do is sit at a poker table where 5 people, they make a raise, and then this guy studies 30 seconds staring him down, and then that guy stares 30 seconds staring him down, and then that guy they don't like it. They're not having fun.
Yeah, of course.
They're
it's
not
terrible.
being entertained. And
yeah, and
so
it's crazy that some of these guys that do this, though, how smart they are, that they're like emotional intelligence, or that they just can't figure that out, that like certain times you have to pivot or adjust what you're doing.
That's IQ, not EQ, JG, you know.
A little both, but I think you're right.
You have to have a big EQ too in poker, I think. And so what I'm trying to say is they're really smart, but if they were smarter, they'd act a lot quicker and keep a lot of these people in the game. You know, you talk to people like Dan Shack, who holds his own in these high stakes things, you know, but he just doesn't have fun anymore when they study and he wasn't getting quite enough results. And he's like, screw this. I don't have time for this. And so he doesn't want to go playing all the $100,000 high rollers anymore. And a lot of guys, they've driven them out. And so I think it's really bad for poker. And it's a shame, because a lot of these kids are really nice people that I would hang out with, that I would have a beer with, that are good guys that can carry on a very intelligent conversation. And there's so many ways you want to be with them. But I think that, you know, this staring down it's going to cost them a lot of money, and it's bad for poker.
For sure. All right. Well, we got we covered a lot. This was an amazing podcast, a lot of fun. And again, we have had one in the past. We already copied this, and we're gonna go ahead and give someone a $111 ticket, man. $111. That's nice. You can win a nice prize courtesy of Party Poker. Phil, you tell me when to draw it. We're gonna roll it.
3, 2, 1, draw it.
Rolling it. All right. There was a record amount of engagement on this tweet, Phil. You have you're hot. You just fresh off a triple undefeated feud. You're playing high stakes. You're doing SPACs. You're in the mix, Phil. You're in your vortex. You are in your absolute peak vortex, I would say. So
you and I talked about that. I call it, I'm in a business vortex. You happen to be there too, but there's not a lot of chamas in the business vortex. A lot of my friends are, but you don't see a lot of poker players in a big business vortex.
It's true. I think that's true. It's just not one of the things. All right, there we go. We got my man Bramble, who just scooped a $111 ticket courtesy of Phil, and Party Poker giving it. We're rolling it. We're all doing good things, Phil. So much fun having you. Thank you as always. Hope to do it again soon, and we'll catch up, and I'm sure we got some more business coming soon.
You and I are always catching up. I'm sending you deals. You're sending me deals. I think I've sent you 2 or 3 deals this year, and vice versa.
Yes.
We just keep doing it.
Well, Recover 180. That's you got to check that one out, Phil. I'm telling you, that's a special one. That's on the table right now. So let's.
We're doing it. We're doing it.
Phil Hellmuth, being the greatest. He's doing it. He's number 1 all time, and we'll see you soon. Appreciate you.
I'm out in 3, 2, 1. Good luck, everybody.
See you. Bye, guys. Next podcast next week. We will have, I believe, 2. Don't have the set dates yet, but we got a ton of guests lined up. Can't wait for you guys to see that. We have crossed 100 podcasts. We do have giveaways pending. If you guys go to my Twitter, Jeff Gross Poker, let me show you guys here. We do have a pending weekly schedule, and also on my website. If you go to my website, there is now a newsletter, plus my schedule is posted, so you can see there it is, Podcast 101. Going to be off the next 2 days, and then we are going to play the 2600 big game on Party Poker, plus I have my home game at 6:15 on Party Poker. And what else do we want to cover? We covered his Hen and Mob, pretty elaborate and impressive, 24 million lifetime results. And again, on my Twitter, if you go to my pinned tweet, which actually now is not pinned since we pinned Phil's, there it is, the weekly schedule. So let's pin it, and you guys can engage, and we are going to give away a $111 ticket for that as well. All you got to do, follow the instructions. And I said the poker hand, I believe we'll draw this as well on Sunday, the election, which now is coming down to it. Obviously, looks like the Queen Jack suited of, Joe Biden, Kamala Harris, Queen Jack suited versus the 45th president, 4-5 of hearts, red and blue. It was a wild ride. I asked you to put your hand in what you think the board runs out. So, it's been kind of interesting. Say flop was pretty steady, and a toss-up turn looked like it was all the Don, and now going to the river. I don't know. Biden looks like he's got a big lead, but it could be a misdeal, could be a reprint. We don't know what's going on. Pretty wild. If you guys want to engage in that, I invite you. Stay safe, be courteous, be good to people. We'll see you soon. Appreciate you. And thanks to Phil for coming on, guys. Appreciate a lot. We'll see you soon. Have a great day.